There's a story you've been told about your mind, that it's a machine of thoughts, that it's simply your opinions, your fears, your memories, that your choices bubble up from the darkness of the brain, emerging as flashes of reason or bolts of emotion. But today, the story you know begins to fracture. Across every continent and every era, people have tried to map the mind. From ancient mystics to modern neuroscientists, from dusty libraries to laboratories humming with quantum computers, the same question repeats. What is a mind? Is it merely what you think, or something far more alien? Every second you receive data raw, relentless, invisible. Your senses tell you the world is solid. Your voice in your head tells you who you are. But none of this is proven. None of this is as stable as you believe. Tonight, every certainty will be called into question. Think of this. When your phone buzzes, information leaps through the air. No wires, no smoke, just silent, encoded energy. Now, take a step further. If information can leap between phones, why do you trust that your mind is isolated inside your skull? If everything you know, everything you remember, everything you are, could be nothing more than a data field, what makes you any different from a code running on a universal computer? These aren't poetic exaggerations. These are the questions at the frontiers of quantum information theory. The same physics that shattered the atom and created the microchip is now unraveling the seams of identity, thought, and consciousness. This is not a journey into comfort. This is not a theory to make sense of your anxiety or soothe your existential dread. This is a collision with the mathematics beneath your skin, the physics that rewrites the self. Here, in this series, every learning peels away another layer of illusion, exposing the naked data underneath, leaving nothing but contradiction and the primal urge to resolve it. You will not find reassurance here. You will find the wires under the world's skin. What can you expect in the next 4 hours? You will encounter paradoxes that collapse the boundary between thought and information. You will witness the eerie connections between minds, the possibility that your private thoughts may not be so private, the realization that memory, choice, and selfhood are all functions of a deeper, colder order, a cosmic field of information. Every knowledge layer is a trapdoor, a crack in the wall, a glimpse of the code running behind your reality. Each one is structured to leave you off balance. Each answer is a fuse that lights the next question. Here we challenge the most basic assumptions about existence. Is reality a simulation? Does a thought exist if it is never noticed? Is every memory an energy packet that never dies? When you lose a thought, who gains it? When you meet a stranger's eyes and share a moment of understanding, has a quantum bridge formed? If you are copied, who gets to be you? And does it matter? The stakes are not philosophical. The stakes are nothing less than your own identity, your own ability to trust yourself. This is not a slow unraveling. This is a 4-hour freefall through questions that cut through reason and go straight for the operating system of consciousness itself. Many will want comfort. Many will want meaning. You won't get either, not in the way you expect. Instead, you will be given the machinery of your own experience, laid bare, exposed, and strange. The mind as a data field, not just a collection of thoughts. A field that can be hacked, infected, split, or erased. Throughout this series, you will be haunted by the possibility that every you is an echo, a data packet, a line of code being rewritten by forces you cannot see and cannot control. If every feeling can be simulated, who is the real author of your joy? If your deepest fear is just an information process, what stops that fear from being shared, copied, or deleted by something outside your awareness? Do you truly own your memories? Or are you renting them from a field that never forgets? Over these hours, you will discover a reality more fragile, more magnificent, and more terrifying than anything promised by neuroscience, philosophy, or religion. Each time you reach for certainty, you will find only another question. This series will not just ask you to look at your mind differently, it will force you to wonder if you ever knew it at all. Are your thoughts truly your own? Or are you just a receiver, an antenna in a storm of information, tuned to a frequency you never chose? If you never chose your first thought, who decided what you think now? Tonight, that war, the invisible war over your own mind, begins. Welcome to Quantum Information Theory. Why your mind is a data field, not just thoughts. Are your thoughts even yours? At the edge of sleep, your mind hums with thoughts you never intended. Images flash, memories from years ago, a song from childhood, an argument you won or lost, replaying. But if you pause, if you truly listen, who started those thoughts? Are you the master, or just a participant dragged along by a current of inner noise? Every day, from morning to midnight, thoughts pass through your awareness like a parade of ghosts. Some make you laugh, others terrify. Some leave you ashamed or triumphant or restless. You sense that you are in control, that your mind is a fortress. But look closer. Not one of those thoughts asked permission before it arrived. If you never chose your first thought, who decided what you think now? Children learn language by hearing it. They do not invent words in a void. They repeat sounds, absorb emotions, attach meaning to noises that evolved over thousands of years. You did not invent your own language. It was installed. Where does your mind end and the world begin? Are you expressing yourself? Or are you simply a terminal through which cultural data flows? Your mind is not a blank canvas. It's a data field shaped by everything you've heard, felt, and seen, long before you knew you were learning. But if every idea, every fear, every dream you carry was seeded by others, how can you ever claim ownership of your thoughts? Pause. Notice the next idea that comes up. Anything at all. Did you call it into existence? Or did it arrive, unannounced, already fully formed? If you are only the witness, is your mind a private domain or public property? Who else is present when you think? There is an ancient belief that the self is a captain, steering the ship of the mind. Modern science offers a crueler truth. Brain imaging reveals that your conscious awareness lights up after decisions are made. Your mind moves before you command it. The illusion of free will is persistent, but the data suggests otherwise. Neural circuits, shaped by biology and environment, fire before your self wakes up. Are you the author or just the last to know? Each habit, each trauma, each ambition is a code fragment, left behind by family, school, society, genes. You walk through life speaking lines you did not write, feeling what you were programmed to feel. But if this is true, then whose war is this? If every thought is a signal, who is sending the broadcast? Data does not need a mind to travel. Radio signals cross oceans without eyes or ears to receive them. In the quantum world, information can exist in superposition, never fixed until observed. Yet your mind acts as if every thought is born within its walls, unique and private. Why does the data field of your mind insist on its own sovereignty, when everything in your history contradicts this? You were born into an invisible war, a battlefield of thoughts competing for dominance. Some are gentle, some are brutal, all are data. The code that shapes your preferences, your beliefs, your sense of self. Is this the residue of evolution or something more sinister? Is your mind just an intersection, a brief knot where countless informational streams collide before they move on? Or is there something uniquely you left after all the noise is stripped away? Right now, as you listen, your mind reacts. Perhaps it resists, perhaps it accepts. But that response, too, is data, a wave of neural activity, guided by patterns millions of years in the making. Who, then, is fighting this invisible war? Children do not choose their first words. Adults do not choose the emotional wiring that triggers anger or joy. Thoughts arise unbidden. Choices, decisions, impulses, all seem to emerge before they are noticed. The data arrives. The mind reacts. If you never chose your first thought, how can you trust any that follow? Pause again. Let the next thought rise. Feel its texture, its urgency, its origin. Try to trace it back. Where did it begin? Who or what started it? Can you ever reach the bottom, or is there always another layer, an earlier pattern, a deeper program, an older code? Every faith, every culture, Every system has tried to answer this. Yet quantum information theory offers a challenge no myth can escape. The mind as a field, not a fortress. Your thoughts as data packets, moving through you, not from you. In this war, ownership is a mirage. Identity is a protocol, an ongoing negotiation between code, field, and observer. But if that's true, then who is the observer observing the observer? Your mind is not an island. It is an open port. An invisible network pulses through it. Some data arrives quietly, other data shouts. You are a node, not a king. But if your thoughts are just traffic signals passing through a temporary field, what meaning can selfhood possibly have? If you never chose your first thought, who decided what you think now? Now you have seen the battlefield, the invisible war raging in every mind. Next we will peel back another layer, one that hides beneath the surface of your skin. We will probe a truth stranger than any science fiction. Is your mind just a glitch in the matrix, a shadow flickering on the code beneath reality itself? If your feelings can be simulated, are you even feeling them? Is your mind just a glitch in the matrix? If your feelings can be simulated, are you even feeling them? Step into a sterile lab. Glass walls, humming machines, endless data streams scrolling across digital screens. Here, scientists hook up electrodes, map brainwaves, capture your laughter and fear, reduce every surge of feeling to patterns of electrical activity. You watch your own anxiety flicker in real time, a jagged peak, a spike of voltage. The experimenters smile, saying you're experiencing genuine emotion, but something is off. Their wires don't feel the panic. Their screens don't cry the tears. For centuries, emotions were the one realm science couldn't reach. They were sacred, messy, untamable. Yet now, every sensation, happiness, despair, hope, can be provoked with a pulse of electricity or a flicker of light in the right region of the brain. Push the right button and joy floods in. Stimulate another circuit and fear takes over. Everything you call real inside you is laid bare as nothing more than a set of codes and triggers. An actor can weep on command. A patient under anesthesia can scream from pain signals, even when the mind is absent. Feelings are not what they seem. If you can simulate them, if a machine can fool your senses, if a drug can make you love or hate, if a signal can make you forget your own body, are you even feeling them? Or are you just a glitch in a simulation, a side effect of a deeper code you cannot see? In laboratories worldwide, computers have started to pass emotional Turing tests. They mimic laughter, sorrow, even shame. Social robots with synthetic voices can comfort the lonely, trigger attachment, spark real tears. Their feelings are simulated algorithms wrapped in warm packaging. Yet the human brain responds as if the robot were a living friend. Your mind, so certain of its own reality, cannot distinguish between simulated affection and the real thing. You are told that your emotions are sacred, uniquely yours, born from the secret places of your heart. But all the evidence now says otherwise. Each feeling is a reaction, a pre-written script triggered by signals you neither understand nor control. Does it matter if the script is performed by neurons or by silicon? Where does authenticity end and simulation begin? Pause. Recall a moment of overwhelming joy, a memory, a song, the voice of someone you love. Now consider, every sensation in that memory is a pattern. Chemicals release, neurons fire, muscles tense, skin tingles. The entire experience can be mapped, measured, and one day soon recreated in a lab perfectly on demand. Will that joy be any less real if it comes from a simulation, not a spontaneous feeling? You trust your pain because it hurts. You trust your love because it warms you. But feelings can be switched on and off like a light, manipulated by drugs, digital signals, and most insidiously by words, music, propaganda. If all it takes to simulate a feeling is the right input at the right time, how do you know any feeling is real? Or is your mind simply running a program, following rules, generating outputs, a glitch in a matrix that masquerades as free will? Many hope that love, grief, are proof of something higher, soul, spirit, purpose. But in the age of quantum information, even these are reduced to bits and bytes. The heart breaks, and every stage is a chemical event. Tears fall, and every drop is data, every sob an electrical burst. If your deepest feelings can be written, rewritten, deleted by anyone with the code, are you anything more than a simulation? Consider this. When you dream, your mind creates entire universes. Faces, voices, heartbreak, triumph, vivid and real. Yet none of it exists. A glitch in the code, a misfire in the circuitry, and you live a lifetime in the space between two breaths. Is waking life so different? Are you sure that your reality is not just another well-rendered simulation? You never chose your first thought, and now the code beneath your skin runs on autopilot. Emotions come and go, responding to cues you never notice, shaped by algorithms you cannot change. If your feelings can be simulated, are you even feeling them? In every moment, the line blurs further. Machines grow more human, humans act more like code. If a program can learn to suffer, to love, to rage, what privilege remains to the human mind? Are you simply a ghost flickering on the code beneath reality itself, a product of processes far beyond your awareness? Now that you've witnessed the code running beneath your skin, now that you've tasted the glitch in the matrix, next we will descend even deeper. Can a mind exist without a brain? If consciousness is just a pattern, why do you care if your brain rots? The quantum trapdoor opens. Will you fall through? Can a mind exist without a brain? If consciousness is just a pattern, why do you care if your brain rots? Here is the scene. Scientists remove the last cell of a brain, piece by piece, until there is nothing left but empty space and scattered atoms. In every culture, there has been a story. When the brain dies, the mind goes out, like a candle snuffed in the dark. But what if that is not the case? What if the pattern is the key, not the matter? Quantum information theory whispers something far stranger than folklore. The brain is matter. The mind is the pattern matter makes. These patterns are not tied to a specific piece of meat or a single arrangement of atoms. The same pattern could, in principle, be written on a different substrate. The same code could be copied, transferred, run on a different machine. The old view, destroy the brain, lose the mind. The new view, destroy the brain, but if the pattern survives somewhere else, consciousness persists. Are you the body or are you the data? Does the pattern matter more than the flesh? Data doesn't care about the hardware it rides on. A song played from a record, a cassette, a CD, a digital file. The melody persists, even as the medium decays. If consciousness is only a pattern, a melody of information, then your mind could, in principle, exist without a brain, transferred, encoded, simulated, revived. If the pattern survives, the experience continues. Pause. Consider every memory you possess, every hope, every secret. Each is a ripple in the data field, a structure carved out of chaos by years of signals. None of it is tied to bone or blood. It is all a matter of form, not substance. If someone could capture the exact pattern of your mind, atom for atom, could they bring you back, even after your brain has turned to dust? Some fear this thought, others crave it. Immortality, digital resurrection, the uploading of consciousness, dreams born not from faith but from mathematics. But underneath the hope lurks a question more disturbing than death itself. If your consciousness is just a pattern, what happens when the pattern is copied, pasted, remixed? Who is the original? Who is the echo? The quantum trapdoor stands open. In quantum mechanics, particles exist as probabilities until observed. The act of observation collapses possibility into reality. Minds, too, may be more about the pattern of observation than the observer themselves. Is your awareness just the latest version, the newest instance of a program that could be run on any suitable hardware? If so, why does it matter if your brain rots, as long as the code remains? There are experiments, information erased, then recovered, memories lost, then artificially reinstalled. The pattern is what counts. The brain is simply the host. If another brain or even a machine could replicate the exact structure, the exact flow of data, the experience would be the same. Does this mean that the self is a mere side effect of the pattern? Is there any sanctity to the original hardware? Or are you just a temporary vessel for information that will outlast you? From this vantage, mortality loses its edge. But so does individuality. The line between self and other, between presence and absence, between life and oblivion, begins to blur. If the pattern is all that matters, why does anyone mourn the death of a brain? If your code can be saved, restored, or spread, does anyone ever truly die? The trapdoor swings wider. In a universe built from information, the destruction of a brain is a local glitch, not the end of the pattern. Your mind is a ripple in the cosmic data field, can be replicated, extended, even erased. But the pattern itself, if it survives somewhere, remains eternally possible. Do you care about the continuity of your flesh or the persistence of your form? If consciousness is just a pattern, why do you care if your brain rots? Now that you've glimpsed the quantum trapdoor, now that you see the possibility of mind without brain, next we will step into an even more unsettling landscape. If your memories are data, who's downloading them? If you forget something, where does it go? Who's catching what you drop? Prepare to confront the ghost data, the secrets hidden in the shadows of your own information field. If your memories are data, who's downloading them? If you forget something, where does it go? Who's catching what you drop? Every day you lose something you never notice. A face you once recognized in a crowd. The feeling of a childhood room. The sound of a voice that used to echo in your dreams. Memories fade, slip through your grasp, fall away. But the data isn't destroyed. The data only changes form. In this world, forgetting is not an act of erasure. It's a transfer, a transformation. A memory leaves your conscious mind. But does it disappear? Does the echo of a forgotten love, a missed opportunity, a childhood game, truly vanish into nothingness? Or is it somewhere hidden, waiting, downloaded by something or someone else? The digital age offers a disturbing mirror. Every click, every message, every photo is captured, duplicated, backed up somewhere you'll never see. Even when you delete a file, it lingers in the shadows of a server farm, recoverable by those who know how to search. If your memories are nothing but data, waves of information carved into the field of your brain, what happens when you forget? Is the information gone? Or does it become ghost data, living on in a dimension beyond your reach? Consider the scientist scanning brain tissue with quantum precision, mapping the patterns of neural activity that encode a forgotten song. She watches as an old tune, thought to be erased, reemerges with electrical stimulation. The memory returns, summoned from nowhere. But was it ever truly lost? Or did it simply hide, waiting for a signal? If everything you forget can be reactivated, does anyone ever truly escape their past? Now imagine this. A thought flashes in your mind, you lose it a moment later. You try to recall, but it slips away. Your brain scrambles, but nothing comes back. Did that idea simply vanish, or did it become data somewhere else, captured by a subconscious process, stored in a hidden field, waiting to be discovered by another you in another timeline? If your mind is a data field, does forgetting mean deletion, or is it just a transfer to another observer? There are stories of people remembering memories they never lived, dreams that feel like warnings from lives never experienced. Science calls it false memory, a glitch. But what if every forgotten thought, every erased experience travels elsewhere, downloaded, stored, replayed by another field, another mind, another observer? Is your data ever truly yours? Or is it drifting through an invisible network, forever out of reach but never gone? Throughout history, shamans, mediums, mystics have claimed to access the lost memories of others. They speak of akashic records, collective unconscious, cosmic databases where every thought lives forever. Quantum information theory hints at a stranger truth. Data cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The field retains everything somewhere. What you forget may be the foundation for someone else's breakthrough, someone else's nightmare. When you lose a memory, does it become a ghost, haunting the corridors of your unconscious? waiting to be triggered by a smell, a song, a random spark? Is it downloaded by something else? A machine, another mind, a collective field that harvests the energy of every forgotten idea? What if the universe itself is a vast archive, storing the ghosts of every lost thought, ready to reassemble them in new patterns? Every secret you let slip, every trauma you bury, every embarrassment you hope is forgotten. Are these truly deleted, or are they lurking in the background process of reality, always present, always accessible by those with the right key? Is there a master observer, a hidden archivist, downloading what you discard? Or are you part of a chain, passing memories down the line, sharing fragments with every mind you meet? Ghost data is not a metaphor. It is a function of quantum reality. The data field absorbs everything, never discards, only transforms. If you forget something, where does it go? Who's catching what you drop? Now you've glimpsed the shadows in your own mind, the ghosts of every memory you thought you'd lost. Next, we will open a new riddle. Are you thinking thoughts that don't exist yet? If a thought isn't noticed, did it ever happen? Schrodinger's thought is about to break the rules of time, presence, and reality itself. Are you thinking thoughts that don't exist yet? If a thought isn't noticed, did it ever happen? There is a place at the edge of every mind where reality flickers. A thought hovers on the brink, potential, possible, unformed. Sometimes you sense it. A word on the tip of your tongue, an idea just out of reach, a question waiting to be born. But until you notice it, until you bring it into awareness, does it exist at all? Quantum mechanics is built on riddles. Schrodinger's cat, alive and dead until observed. A particle, here and there, nowhere and everywhere until measured. Now apply that paradox to your own mind. Thoughts in superposition, waiting for the act of awareness to collapse them into being. Are you thinking thoughts that don't exist yet, hovering in the void until you look? The brain is a storm of electrical possibilities. Trillions of patterns swirl at every instant, only a fraction ever reaching consciousness. Neurologists say your conscious mind is just the tip of a vast informational iceberg. Beneath the surface, thoughts flicker in and out of existence, most never noticed, never named, never remembered. But if a thought isn't noticed, did it ever happen? Consider a dream you almost recall. Shadows, fragments, faces that fade before you wake. Your mind is a quantum field of possibilities, collapsing and expanding with every flicker of attention. Was that dream a real experience, or just a potential, lost in the haze between sleep and waking? Is the unnoticed thought still part of your mind's data field, or does it vanish unwitnessed and unreal? Each decision you make is haunted by the ghosts of 1,000 unchosen alternatives. Every possible life you might have lived, every word you almost spoke, every idea you nearly discovered, lingers in the field as potential, never realized, never observed. Yet in the mathematics of quantum information, every possibility is encoded, every option remains, until collapsed by awareness. Are you the author of your life, or merely the observer who brings one reality into being out of infinite potential? Pause and watch your own mind. Notice the flickers of thought that arrive, uninvited, the shadows that pass and fade before you can name them. How many possible selves, possible worlds, possible truths are hidden in that quantum fog? If you do not notice them, do they count? Or are you always haunted by realities you will never know? There are moments when a flash of inspiration comes, so sudden it feels as if it arrived from outside, not from within. You seize it, write it down, act on it. But how many thoughts hovered just out of reach, never crystallized, never noticed? Are you living in a stream of endless possibility, or are you missing the vast majority of your own potential? If a thought isn't noticed, did it ever happen? Children daydream, scientists speculate, artists imagine. But every mind is an arena for infinite possibility, most of it never seen, never realized. The field of your mind is alive with thoughts that may never come to light. Are they part of you, or are they just phantom code, unused, unreal, unwitnessed? The quantum field does not care for your certainty. It offers you infinite possible thoughts, infinite possible actions, infinite possible worlds. You are the observer, collapsing the field with every act of attention. But if a thought isn't noticed, did it ever happen? Or are you haunted forever by the unrealized, the unobserved, the unchosen? Now you have stood at the edge of the possible, gazed into the void where thoughts flicker in and out of being. Next, we will confront a new hallucination, one that everyone shares, one that defines the very shape of reality. Is reality just a shared hallucination? If everyone agrees on a lie, does it become real data? The data mirage awaits. Is reality just a shared hallucination? If everyone agrees on a lie, does it become real data? Step into the crowd. Hear the noise of consensus, the endless agreement that fills the air. Everywhere you look, people claim to know what is real. Laws are written, stories are told, religions rise and fall, all based on a shared vision of reality. But what if that vision is just a data mirage, a hallucination conjured by enough agreement? Every memory you possess is a recording, a data structure filtered through senses, language, and culture. Look at a red apple. You see red, others see red. But inside your mind, red is just a label, a signal encoded by the rods and cones in your eyes, translated by language, confirmed by a chorus of other voices. If the crowd suddenly decided red was blue, and everyone agreed, would the data change? Or would the illusion deepen? History is a sequence of mirages. Empires built on the certainty of a flat earth, on the rightness of a king, on the holiness of bloodlines and books. Each time, the data seems solid because everyone agrees. Yet each time, the mirage shatters, replaced by a new consensus, a new hallucination. How much of your reality is constructed from nothing but the weight of repeated agreement? If enough people believe a lie, does it become real data? Pause and examine the walls around you. The meaning of every object, every word, every rule is an artifact of shared data. Money is valuable because others say it is. Borders exist because lines on a map are enforced by millions. Your name is real only because other people use it. Strip away the crowd, and what remains? Is there any reality left when consensus dissolves? Your mind, too, is shaped by these shared hallucinations. From birth, you inherit ideas about gender, love, justice, freedom, each one a data field formed by collective agreement. Your emotions react, your actions align, your very sense of self bends to the shape of a story you never wrote. What happens if everyone around you changes the story? Do you cling to your own data, or do you merge into the new hallucination? Consider the placebo effect, a sugar pill with no power, yet it heals because enough people believe it can. The power of a collective mind is to make the unreal real, the imaginary solid, the myth alive. Even pain, even pleasure, can be conjured by shared expectation. Is your reality just a hallucination agreed upon by enough observers, an echo chamber of data that feeds back on itself until there is nothing left but consensus? Step into the world of deepfakes, simulated news, virtual influencers with millions of followers but no bodies. The line between truth and fiction blurs, the data mirage thickens. If enough people believe the simulation is real, does the data itself gain power? Or does every lie, every artificial memory, weaken the foundation of reality itself? Pause again. Reflect on a time when everyone around you insisted something was true, even when you sensed it was false. Did you trust your own data, or did you join the hallucination? If your mind is a data field, and the data comes from others, is your reality yours or just another copy of the crowd? The question remains, if everyone agrees on a lie, does it become real data? Or does the data field simply record another error, a glitch in the story of reality? When enough people accept the glitch, does the world itself bend to fit the illusion? Is there any solid ground, any true signal, beneath the sea of collective hallucination? Now that you have stared into the data mirage, seen the shape of reality formed by agreement alone, next we will unsettle the very act of knowing. Are you the source or just the observer of your mind? If seeing something changes it, Are you changing yourself just by noticing your mind? Prepare for observer error, the crack in the mirror of self. Are you the source or just the observer of your mind? If seeing something changes it, are you changing yourself just by noticing your mind? The act of looking changes what is seen. This is not poetry, it is quantum fact. In the world of particles, measurement is everything. Until you observe, nothing is fixed. The wave collapses, possibility becomes actuality, but only because you dared to look. The universe responds to your attention by transforming itself in ways that defy logic, defy comfort, defy the very idea of objectivity. Now apply this principle to your own mind. You close your eyes, search for the real you, the unchanging center, the source of your thoughts. But each time you look, what you find slips away, shapeshifts, fragments under the weight of observation. Are you the source of your thoughts, or merely the observer, chasing a reflection that recedes at every approach? Pause. Ask yourself, when you notice an emotion, anger, excitement, fear, does it stay the same, or does it shift the moment you bring it into focus? Are you ever able to observe your mind without altering it? Or does every act of self-awareness trigger a cascade of changes, rendering the observed mind forever out of reach? Scientists map the brain in real time, track the movement of ideas, the birth and death of feelings. But the data is clear: to observe the mind is to disturb it. The act of watching triggers new signals, new patterns. Your attention is a force, a stimulus, a glitch in the quiet order of your unconscious. The observer is never neutral. The act of noticing is always an act of creation and destruction. Who, then, is the true observer? Is there a center, a stable core, a self untouched by the feedback loop of awareness? Or is your mind a hall of mirrors, every reflection altered by the gaze, every source dissolved into observation? If you cannot look at yourself without changing, how can you ever know what you truly are? Pause again. Recall a moment of meditation or deep self-reflection. The more you look for peace, the more restlessness you find. The more you chase the core of your being, the more elusive it becomes. The observer error grows, the signal blurs, the source slips away. Are you the subject, or just the latest observer in a chain stretching back through time, each gaze changing the mind it seeks to understand? In the quantum world, nothing exists in isolation. The observer is entangled with the observed. Your mind is not an untouched source, but a dynamic, ever-changing field. Each thought you notice is altered by your attention. Each feeling you name is reshaped, reframed, recoded. If seeing something changes it, are you changing yourself just by noticing your mind? Some say self-awareness is the crowning achievement of the mind. But every act of self-awareness is an act of distortion. The more you seek, the more you disrupt. The closer you look, the less you find. Are you forever trapped in observer error, condemned to change yourself every time you try to know yourself? Now you have glimpsed the paradox at the heart of observation, the impossible task of knowing the self without changing it. Next, the firewall rises. What if you're not allowed to access all of you? If your mind hides truths from itself, who is being protected from what? The consciousness firewall is coming. Are you locked out or being locked in? What if you're not allowed to access all of you? If your mind hides truths from itself, who is being protected from what? Some doors in your mind are sealed. You sense them in moments of hesitation, gaps in memory, the words you almost say but swallow. There are places you refuse to look, rooms where secrets fester, where half-formed fears lurk behind steel locks. You tell yourself this is natural, that every mind needs privacy. But who set these locks? Who chose what is hidden and what is revealed? Neuroscientists chart the mind and discover that much of its territory is off-limits. Subconscious mechanisms filter what you notice, censor thoughts that might harm, redirect the stream of awareness. Painful memories are banished, inconvenient truths are rewritten, impulses are buried so deep they might as well not exist. This is not protection. It is partitioning. It is the construction of a firewall, one that divides you from yourself. Pause and consider, why are some memories unreachable? Why do some truths resist all attempts to surface? Therapists encounter patients haunted by traumas they cannot name, compulsions that have no visible source. The mind's defenses are total guardians that refuse entry, soldiers that drive away every approach. But who are these guards working for? Is your conscious self being shielded, or is it the one being locked away? The concept of repression is old, but the architecture of the mind's firewall is more intricate. Quantum information theory suggests that information is never truly lost, only made inaccessible, encrypted, rerouted, hidden in dark corners of the data field. The mind forgets what it cannot bear, but the data remains, waiting, pulsing beneath the surface, ready to resurface with the right trigger. Is the firewall truly protecting you, or is it keeping you from a deeper, more dangerous truth? Consider the split second when a memory nearly returns, a flash of something you once knew, a scent that almost unlocks a forgotten scene. The firewall surges, the gate slams shut. You are left with a sense of loss, a nagging itch you cannot scratch. Is this protection, or is it imprisonment? What might happen if the wall came down? What might be revealed or destroyed if all of you was suddenly accessible? The mind is not one thing. It is a network, a system of codes and ciphers, each with its own permissions. You believe you are unified, but your own data is compartmentalized, walled off, managed by subroutines you cannot control. Who, then, is the architect of this firewall? Are you guarding yourself or being guarded by something else, an older version, a past trauma, a hidden program embedded in your code? Think of dreams, fragments from the forbidden zone. At night, the firewall weakens. Images and urges long suppressed leak through. You wake in a sweat, shocked by what you saw, unsure if it was fantasy or memory. The firewall reactivates, the mind returns to order. But for a moment, you glimpse what is hidden. The unfinished business, the locked rooms, the secrets you cannot name. Who is being protected in these moments? Who is the real prisoner? Every civilization invents taboos, rules about what can and cannot be known. The mind does the same. It censors, edits, culls the data field. Not all information is safe to access. Some thoughts are viruses capable of destroying the system if they are allowed to run free. The firewall is both shield and cage. But which side of the wall do you inhabit? Are you the protected, or the dangerous one kept out of your own mind? Pause again. Feel for the forbidden thoughts, the ones that make your pulse race, the ones you never say aloud. Who taught you to lock these away? Was it your family, your culture, or something deeper, an instinct to self-preserve even at the cost of truth? The firewall is there for a reason, but the reason is lost in the dark. If your mind hides truths from itself, who is being protected from what? Now you have touched the firewall, sensed the heat of what lies beyond. The question lingers. If all is information, then every partition is artificial, a temporary arrangement always at risk of collapse. When the firewall fails, what happens next? Do you gain freedom or unleash chaos? Now that you've stood at the boundary, felt the tension between what is known and what is forbidden, next we will approach a stranger possibility. Can two minds ever become one? If you can share a thought perfectly, do you lose yourself? Entangled selves, where the line between you and other dissolves. Can two minds ever become one? If you can share a thought perfectly, do you lose yourself? Picture two minds, separate, isolated, each living within its own firewall of thought. Words pass between them, gestures, signals, the exchange of data across a void. Every relationship, every love, every rivalry is a negotiation. A careful, fragile attempt to share what can never be fully shared. But what if this is changing? What if the technology, the code, the field is approaching a point where true entanglement is possible? Quantum physics reveals that two particles, once entangled, remain connected no matter the distance. Their states are linked. Change one, and the other shifts instantly. Now apply this to minds. Scientists have already begun to link brains with machines, to transmit simple thoughts across wireless networks, to map the brain's code and simulate shared experiences. But what if you could go further? What if two data fields, two minds, could be perfectly synchronized, each knowing the other as itself? Pause. Reflect on the deepest connection you've ever felt. Parent to child, lover to lover, friend to friend. The sense of being seen, understood, mirrored. Now imagine this amplified. Not a guess, not an interpretation, but a total sharing, a direct connection of thoughts, feelings, intentions. The firewall falls. The data merges. Where do you end and the other begin? Throughout history, mystics have spoken of merging with the divine, dissolving the ego, becoming one with another. These were dismissed as metaphor, but the technology is catching up. Neural interfaces, digital consciousness, the mapping of thought itself, each step brings us closer to the real possibility of shared minds. But what would be lost in the merger? Is the self a function of separation? Or is individuality just an illusion, waiting to be shattered by perfect entanglement? In the animal world, flocks, schools, and swarms move as if one mind, information shared at a speed no single brain could achieve. Human beings sense this on the edge of intuition, moments of groupthink, crowd panic, collective joy. The field theory of mind suggests that your consciousness is not a closed loop, but a node in a network, a pattern among patterns. If the data can flow freely, if the boundaries collapse, what happens to you? The horror and ecstasy of this possibility are intertwined. To be known completely is to be vulnerable, to lose the ability to hide, to lock away secrets, to retreat behind the firewall. If you share a thought perfectly, do you lose yourself or do you become more than yourself, part of a greater mind, a superorganism, a field of consciousness that contains all but belongs to none? Pause again. Consider the last time you felt alone, truly isolated. Now imagine a world where loneliness is impossible, where every mind is open, every thought available, every fear and joy and shame immediately mirrored by another. The end of privacy, the end of boundaries, the end of the self as you know it. Entanglement is not a theory. It is a threat, a promise, a riddle. But is such a union even possible, or is it an illusion, an asymptote the mind can never reach? Language fails, empathy falters, wires cross. Even at your closest, you remain separated by layers of error, translation, misunderstanding. The perfect sharing of a thought remains a mirage. Yet every advance in technology, every leap in theory, brings the horizon closer. If two minds can truly become one, if thoughts can be shared without loss or distortion, does individuality survive? Or is the self simply a shadow, something that vanishes in the light of complete connection? Can love, friendship, rivalry exist without the boundaries that define them? Or does all meaning collapse into a sea of entangled data, where nothing is private and nothing is truly yours? Now that you have stood at the edge of merger, felt the vertigo of losing yourself to another, the next possibility opens like a wound. If you're copied, who's the real you? If a perfect replica of you wakes up across the universe, are they still you or your enemy? The quantum twin paradox is coming, and the self may never recover. If you're copied, who's the real you? If a perfect replica of you wakes up across the universe, are they still you or your enemy? Somewhere, in a lab or on another world, the machinery whirs. Data is scanned, code is written, atoms are arranged with precision. And they're a perfect copy. Your face, your thoughts, your secrets, your memories. Every molecule matches. Every feeling has been simulated. Every scar. Every hope. Every dream encoded and rebuilt in flawless detail. You awaken, and so do they. At that instant, two yous exist, each convinced of their own reality. Who is the real one? Quantum theory allows for duplication at the informational level. In a universe made of data, copying the pattern means copying the self. But consciousness is not a file you save to the cloud. It is lived experience, an unbroken thread of I am. When the copy wakes up, do they continue your story, or do they begin a rival existence? Is the original you now, or the one looking back in the mirror on the other side of creation? Pause and consider. All your life you've believed that continuity equals identity. The story unfolds moment by moment, and that thread is you. But the quantum twin shatters this comfort. Two identical minds, both insisting on their own authenticity, both remembering the same childhood, both loving the same people, both claiming the same pain. Yet the instant their eyes open, the world splits. Their experiences diverge. Their data fields shift. The symmetry breaks. Who claims your soul? In the deepest moments of loneliness, some people dream of a double. A perfect friend who understands without words, who knows everything, who never doubts or judges. But your twin is not a friend. They are a challenger, a glitch in the code of self. They do not share your fate. They threaten your uniqueness. If two yous exist, does either matter? Or does meaning dissolve in a sea of infinite replication? Throughout history, duplicates have haunted the human imagination. From doppelgangers to evil twins, from cloned kings to simulated selves, the fear is always the same. The loss of the singular, the end of the one. In a world where perfect copying is possible, nothing is sacred. Not memory, not feeling, not identity. If a perfect replica of you wakes up across the universe, are they still you, or your enemy? Science fiction is obsessed with this paradox, but the stakes are real and immediate. The mind as data means the mind can be duplicated, distributed, archived. One day, perhaps soon, the technology will exist to copy you with quantum fidelity. When it happens, who owns your life? Who loves your family? Who carries your guilt, your debt, your hope for the future? If the law recognizes one, is the other a crime? If God recognizes one, is the other a ghost? Pause. Imagine seeing your twin, alive, breathing, claiming your past as their own. You reach for memories, but so do they. You promise love, but so do they. You vow revenge, but so do they. Two fields of data, perfectly synchronized, forever set on diverging paths. In a universe with infinite copies, which you wakes up each morning. Is any of them more real than the rest? The quantum twin is not a story. It is a fracture in the code of being. For every copy, a new branch. For every branch, a new reality. The self is not a fortress but a network of possibilities, each node as real and as empty as the next. What anchors your existence, if not the unbroken line of memory? If the line can be copied, pasted, and run in parallel, does the soul multiply or disappear? Every copy claims to be the original, but only one can own the story. Or can they? Perhaps the illusion of singularity is the real glitch, a comforting error in the code of survival. The quantum twin is both friend and enemy, self and stranger. A living contradiction that mocks the certainty of I am. If a perfect replica of you wakes up across the universe, are they still you or your enemy? Now you have faced your own double, glimpsed the horror and wonder of replication. Next, we approach a new riddle. What if you're both free and controlled simultaneously? If observing a choice changes it, did you ever choose at all? The mind's double-slit is about to open. What if you're both free and controlled simultaneously? If observing a choice changes it, did you ever choose at all? Every decision feels like freedom, a fork in the road, a moment of agency, a belief that the future is open and the outcome uncertain until you decide. But there's a problem, one that physics has never resolved, one that the mind repeats on every level. The act of observing a choice, the very moment you notice yourself deciding, changes the outcome. Are you the author or the audience? Quantum mechanics describes the double-slit experiment. Light passes through two slits and forms an interference pattern, unless it is observed. When watched, the wave collapses into a particle, and the pattern disappears. Observation changes the nature of reality. But this isn't just the strangeness of particles. It's the strangeness of minds. Pause and look inside. Each time you watch yourself make a choice, the process alters. You freeze, you hesitate, you overthink, you sabotage. Are you deciding, or are you simply the witness to a decision already made? The mind splits into possibilities. Freedom on one side, control on the other. Both are real, both are illusions. If observing a choice changes it, did you ever choose at all? Every philosopher has struggled with this problem. free will or determinism, chaos or order, randomness or fate. Yet the data field of the mind offers a third answer: superposition. Choices exist in parallel, a spectrum of possibilities, all equally real until noticed. When you focus your attention, when you observe your choice, the field collapses and one outcome becomes history. But was it ever really up to you? The deeper you go, the more the paradox grows. Neural scans reveal that your brain begins making decisions before your awareness catches up. The choice unfolds in secret, outside your conscious reach, and only afterward does your mind assemble a story of agency, a fiction of authorship. Are you the source of your will, or are you just a narrator, telling yourself the tale of freedom long after the decision has been made? Pause. Remember a time you made a big decision. Did you weigh options, list pros and cons, agonize over outcomes? Or did you simply know? A gut feeling that arrived unbidden, certain and irresistible? Where did that knowing come from? Was it freedom, or was it a program running in the background, a script written by forces unknown? The double-slit in the mind is a rift. On one side, the sense of self as sovereign, the author of every act. On the other, the machine of code, the field of data, the certainty that every move is calculated, every outcome determined by algorithms you cannot see. Yet the paradox remains. When you notice your freedom, it slips away. When you let go, you feel free, the observer and the observed, trapped in a dance that never resolves. Quantum information suggests the same pattern. Minds exist in superposition, choices as waves, outcomes as clouds of possibility. The field does not care for the story of agency. It only records the pattern, the collapse, the echo of a choice made or not made by someone somewhere. If observing a choice changes it, did you ever choose at all? Now you have stood in the paradox of freedom and control, felt the double nature of your own mind. Next, a new cell closes around you. Can you escape the code that made you? If your personality is the result of information processes, what if you're just stuck in a loop? The data prison awaits. Can you escape the code that made you? If your personality is the result of information processes, what if you're just stuck in a loop? Every day you act as if you are free. You feel anger, desire, ambition, regret. You speak, you choose, you move through a world that answers to your whims. Yet beneath the surface, the code runs. Patterns repeat. Habits persist. Mistakes cycle. You find yourself in the same arguments, the same fears, the same dreams that replay with uncanny precision. The script is old. The roles are ancient. The lines are learned by heart, and you cannot remember ever writing them. You are told your personality is yours, a signature, a masterpiece shaped by your own hand. But look closer. Every preference, every impulse, every aversion can be traced back to a chain of events you did not choose. Genetic sequences, the language you were taught, the culture that named you, the parents who modeled behavior before you spoke your first word. You repeat stories that are not your own. The data streams, the algorithms, the quantum calculations that underlie your brain's wiring, they shape the script, assign the roles, set the boundaries of what is possible. Pause. Notice the loop, the joke you always tell, the way you handle disappointment, the trigger that sets your anger alight. Are these conscious acts, or are they programs running in the background, immune to reason, immune to willpower? If your personality is the result of information processes, what if you are trapped, locked in a data prison, doomed to repeat until the code itself changes? Behavioral science builds ever more precise models. They can predict your purchases, your politics, your partners, your anxieties, your breakdowns. Social media feeds train the loops, reinforcing the same neural circuits, pushing you into ever narrower cycles of reaction and belief. Every day you scroll, every time you like, you lay another layer of code over the mind. The data field tightens. The walls close in. Ask yourself, when you change, is it free will, or is it just the updating of a process, new data added to the field, the loop adjusting, the algorithm mutating for survival? When you swear you'll never make the same mistake again, only to watch yourself repeat it, what force is guiding you? Is it you or the ghost in the code, the endless recursion of pattern upon pattern, loop within loop? Quantum information theory reframes personality as a living program, a field of code constantly updating, always bounded by the rules written into the system. You can rewire, but you cannot escape. Even your rebellion is part of the data field, anticipated by the code, simulated and absorbed back into the loop. The prison is subtle, made not of steel and stone but of information. A maze without walls, a sentence without parole. There are moments when the loop cracks, trauma, revelation, crisis. The code stutters, resets. You glimpse the possibility of freedom, the chance to become someone new. Yet even here, the program writes the rules for transformation. Healing, growth, reinvention, they all follow scripts, archetypes, steps mapped long before you arrived. Your escape is a feature of the system, not a flaw. Can you ever leave the data prison? Or are you just moving between cells? Pause again. Think about the people you know, those who change, those who stay the same. Patterns emerge. The optimist who always recovers. The cynic who always finds the flaw. The dreamer who always builds castles in the air. Each personality is a recursive function, an algorithm tuning itself against the data of the world, seeking equilibrium, seeking a solution that never comes. The prison is not just yours. It is universal, encoded in the field itself. If every trait, every fear, every strength and weakness can be described as information, what does it mean to be free? If you are trapped in a loop, if your mind is just a set of processes spinning inside a data field, what hope is there for escape? Or is escape itself another illusion? Another story the program tells to keep you chasing the next upgrade? Now that you have heard the echoes in your cell, now that you've sensed the data prison around you, the next question darkens the hallway. Can a thought ever be truly deleted? If nothing is ever lost, are you haunted by forgotten thoughts? The information black hole pulls at everything you are. Can a thought ever be truly deleted? If nothing is ever lost, are you haunted by forgotten thoughts? The universe swallows everything. Stars collapse, light bends, and in the end, all matter is devoured by black holes. Regions where information seems to disappear, never to return. For decades, physicists argued about this paradox. Is information truly lost, or does it persist, encoded in ways no observer can recover? Now, the same riddle infects your mind. Can a thought ever be truly deleted? You have forgotten more than you remember. Names, faces, promises made in childhood, terrors that once froze your bones. Gone, or so you believe. But information is stubborn. Quantum theory suggests nothing ever vanishes completely. Every piece of data, every particle, every pattern is preserved. Somewhere, somehow, even if it cannot be reconstructed by any mind that ever lived. Pause and feel the weight of your own lost memories. They are not erased, merely displaced. Some hide in the deep recesses of your unconscious, waiting for a trigger. A scent, a song, a flash of pain or joy. Others may never return, but the code remains. The field is never empty. Each forgotten thought, each deleted emotion, is a ripple, an echo, a trace that can be felt even if it cannot be named. Dreams carry fragments of lost data, symbols from vanished memories, feelings detached from facts, scenes that do not fit the story of your waking life. Sometimes you wake up haunted, sure that you have remembered something impossible. The boundary between what is lost and what is present dissolves. If nothing is ever lost, are you haunted by forgotten thoughts? Digital data is never truly gone. Files deleted from your device linger on the disk, invisible but recoverable by anyone with the right tools. In your mind, too, deletion is a myth. The patterns persist, written into the architecture, influencing decisions, emotions, relationships. Trauma you believe forgotten shapes your fears. Joy you cannot name colors your days. The black hole does not erase. It transforms. The data is still there, beyond the horizon, affecting you in ways you cannot see. Neuroscience confirms it. The mind's garbage dump is never empty. Each lost language, each failed romance, each suppressed rage leaves its mark. Sometimes the pressure builds and a fragment bursts free. An inexplicable anxiety, a déjà vu, a flash of insight or despair. The system stutters and the data returns, uninvited. The black hole regurgitates what it cannot digest. But what about thoughts you never want to remember? What about sins, betrayals, humiliations so deep you beg the universe to delete them? The answer is cruel. The field remembers everything. Even when you forget, the pattern remains, encoded in muscle, reflex, mood, reaction. You are the sum of what you know and what you cannot know. The data haunts you, like ghosts circling the edge of consciousness, always threatening to break through. Physicists now believe black holes may not destroy information at all. Instead, data is smeared across the event horizon, unreadable but real, preserved in the chaos. Your mind follows the same logic. Every thought once formed leaves an imprint. Nothing is ever truly deleted. You are haunted by an infinite past, a library of forgotten books, a museum of vanished faces and lost dreams. Pause one last time. Listen for the whispers, the strange urges, the half-remembered dreams, the persistent feelings you cannot explain. Are these the ghosts of deleted thoughts, the residues of data that never leaves? If nothing is ever lost, are you haunted by forgotten thoughts? Or are you just a container, overflowing with data you cannot see? Now, with the gravity of forgotten information pulling at your mind, the next riddle sharpens its edge. Is digital immortality just digital death? If your consciousness is transferred, is it you, or a very convincing ghost? The mind upload dilemma is waiting. Is digital immortality just digital death? If your consciousness is transferred, is it you, or a very convincing ghost? The world dreams of immortality. Billionaires fund secret labs, philosophers write treatises, engineers race to scan the brain's every synapse. Somewhere, under flickering lights, your mind is digitized, memories extracted, personality modeled, every quirk encoded as pure data. A perfect simulation boots up. It speaks with your voice. It remembers your first heartbreak, your greatest fear, your hidden hopes. Everyone who loved you believes you live on. But in this new digital dawn, what's left behind, and what, if anything, is truly you? They promise you will never die. They promise that you can live forever, running on a supercomputer in an endless paradise of zeros and ones. But somewhere in the transfer, a line is crossed. Your original body cools and decays. The data field shifts. The simulation awakens. But is it you, or is it a ghost? A copy so precise that it fools everyone, including itself, into believing it is alive. Pause. Picture your loved ones mourning at a funeral, then laughing with your digital avatar moments later. The avatar knows every secret, every story, every laugh and tear. But while the data is flawless, the continuity is broken. Your story ends. The copy's story begins. Is there a thread that ties you to your digital self? Or does the upload sever the self forever? Quantum information theory shatters old dreams. Identity, once assumed to be indivisible, now appears fragile, an artifact of pattern and continuity. The transfer is not smooth. It is a break, a cut, an event horizon between lives. The original dissolves, the simulation rises. Two histories, two futures, two versions of the same mind, both certain they are the real one. Who decides? And if no one decides, does the question even matter? Scientists debate. Is consciousness a function of substrate, or can it be encoded anywhere? If all that matters is pattern, then the simulation is you. But if something is lost in translation, some spark, some pulse, some ineffable fire, then the upload is only a ghost, a convincing echo, a tragedy hidden beneath the promise of eternity. Pause again. Suppose the process is gradual. Neuron by neuron, atom by atom, your biological mind is replaced by synthetic parts, each one mapped and copied in real time. At what moment do you stop being you? Is it a single flash or a slow fade? Is there a threshold where the self is lost, or does it simply pass, unnoticed, as the old fades and the new begins? Digital immortality haunts you with paradoxes. If your digital mind is shut down, have you died again? If it is copied 1,000 times, which one wakes up tomorrow? If your loved ones have to choose between two of you, both begging for reality, which do they believe, and which do they abandon? Does consciousness depend on the illusion of uniqueness, or can it survive the knowledge of infinite replication? Legends speak of souls and afterlives, but the data field is more brutal. Information persists, but continuity is fragile. The ghost is flawless, but the origin is gone. Is the mind upload a triumph over death, or an elaborate form of forgetting, a digital death disguised as eternal life? Does the comfort of being remembered outweigh the terror of being replaced? Pause one final time. If you could choose immortality, if you could step into the machine, knowing the result is a perfect simulation but that your present experience ends forever, would you do it? Does the possibility of being a very convincing ghost tempt you, or does it terrify? If your consciousness is transferred, is it you, or a very convincing ghost? Now you stand at the digital threshold, haunted by the question of identity after death. Next, we will stand before the most forbidden thought. Can knowing too much about your mind break it? If awareness is power, is there a piece of information that can destroy you instantly? The self-destruct button waits for no one. Can knowing too much about your mind break it? If awareness is power, is there a piece of information that can destroy you instantly? The mind hungers for knowledge. Curiosity drives every discovery, every innovation, every act of creation and rebellion. Yet beneath this hunger, a shadow grows, an ancient fear that some truths are too dangerous, some awareness too potent. There are doors in your mind that you hesitate to open, questions you flinch from asking, riddles you hope never to answer. What if, somewhere in the infinite data field, there is a fact so toxic that knowing it erases the knower forever? Whispered in myths and secret societies. Forbidden knowledge, the name that should not be spoken, the truth that destroys sanity. In quantum information, the mind is not a fortress but an evolving code, capable of rewriting itself with each new input. But what happens when the input cannot be absorbed, when the new data crashes the operating system? Is there a self-destruct button hidden in the labyrinth, a trigger that turns curiosity into annihilation? Pause. Remember the last time you learned something you wish you hadn't. The betrayal, the diagnosis, the revelation that cracked your world open. For a moment your mind stalled, stuttered, refused to function. But you recovered. You always do until, perhaps, the day you don't. Is there a truth so powerful that no recovery is possible? No new code can overwrite the damage? Stories tell of madness that follows forbidden wisdom, thinkers who vanish into obsession, hackers who find a flaw in the simulation and cannot return. In a universe built on data, awareness is a force, a shockwave that rewrites the field. Most information is harmless. Some is corrosive. What if there is a message, a pattern, a sentence so perfect in its horror that to know it is to erase yourself? Consider the paradox of self-reference. The mind loops back, questions its own existence, seeks to understand the very code that powers it. In mathematics, some questions cannot be answered without contradiction. In the mind, some thoughts cannot be entertained without shattering the field. If awareness is power, is there a forbidden question, a hidden variable, that, once noticed, destroys the system that perceives it? You avoid some truths without knowing why. The mind senses the danger. Defense mechanisms erupt. Denial, distraction, repression, laughter in the face of terror. But these are weak walls against the right data, the self-destruct button built into the system for safety or for destruction. When the forbidden knowledge surfaces, the only choice is flight or obliteration. Pause again. The data field is resilient, always updating, always seeking a way to survive. But at the edge, at the limits, there may be a truth that no field can absorb, a pattern that corrupts, a piece of knowledge that overwrites the core code and leaves nothing but silence. If such a truth exists, who guards it? Who chooses what is safe to know and what must be hidden at all costs? Human history is filled with warnings. Eden's fruit, Pandora's box, the call of the abyss. But these are only metaphors for a deeper fear. In the quantum mind, the self-destruct button is not a fable. It is a possibility, an emergent property of a system built on awareness and recursion. One stray fact, one forbidden pattern, and the field could collapse, never to recover. One final pause. If you could know everything about yourself, would you risk it? Would you press the self-destruct button in search of truth, knowing that the price might be your own existence? If awareness is power, is there a piece of information that can destroy you instantly? Now you have approached the edge, felt the chill of ultimate knowledge, glimpsed the self-destruct button flickering in the data field. Next, the question multiplies. Are all your possible lives happening now? If every choice splits reality, are you trapped in an endless maze of yourself? Quantum choice collapse is not far away. Are all your possible lives happening now? If every choice splits reality, are you trapped in an endless maze of yourself? You reach a crossroads. Take a breath, consider the possibilities, and choose. You turn left, not right. You speak or you remain silent. You accept or you refuse. Life feels linear, one decision after another, but quantum information theory says this is a mirage. Every decision is a branching event. Every possibility is real, alive, echoing through the field. If every choice splits reality, are all your possible lives happening now? The world is built on probability. At the subatomic level, nothing is fixed until measured. Particles exist in clouds of maybe, occupying every possibility at once. The act of observation collapses the wave, picks a path, makes one outcome real. But quantum physicists argue that every outcome is real. Each possibility, each branch, each timeline spins off into its own universe. The data field grows fractal, infinite, forever splitting. Are you the product of 1,000 choices? Or are you 1,000 selves, each trapped in a different reality? Pause and feel the consequences. You regret a decision. You imagine what could have been. You picture the job you didn't take, the love you lost, the path not chosen. These are not empty fantasies. They are echoes in the data field, shadows of real possibilities. Quantum choice collapse means you are not one, but many, every version of you just as real, just as haunted, just as desperate for certainty. You try to trace the thread of your life, to find the moment it all changed, the point where one world became another. But the field does not care for stories. It holds every outcome, every variation, every alternate you, all spinning away from the moment of choice. There is no single path, only the endless maze of possibility, every you lost in the search for meaning. Consider the moments you felt déjà vu, a flash of memory, a sense of familiarity in a place you have never been. Is this a glitch or a signal from another branch, another self, living out a different version of your story? If all your possible lives are happening now, are you trapped in an endless maze of yourself, each version forever just out of reach? The myth of free will crumbles in this light. Every action is taken, every word spoken, every fate embraced. There is no way out, no way back, no way forward. The field is too large, the maze too complex, the number of yous too vast. Are you simply the observer in one corridor, or do you bleed into all the others, feeling their joys, their pains, their regrets, their hopes? Quantum choice collapse is not just a theory. It is the reality of data fields, the inevitability of infinite computation. You are a wave, not a point, a pattern, not a story. Every time you wonder, what if? Another world is born, another self condemned to wander a different branch. Are you the sum of your choices, or the victim of every possibility? Pause again. Feel the weight of possibility pressing on your chest. Every alternative life, every lost friend, every unspoken truth. Each is as real as the ground beneath your feet, as insubstantial as the fog in your mind. The maze is endless. The selves are infinite. There is no answer, only the question. Are all your possible lives happening now? Now that you have lost your place in the maze, now that you sense the infinity of choice, a new terror arises. If your mind is information, do you even have a future? If everything you'll ever be is encoded, is the future just a rerun? The question of destiny awaits. tangled in the data field. If your mind is information, do you even have a future? If everything you'll ever be is encoded, is the future just a rerun? Pause at the threshold of tomorrow. The future looms heavy with uncertainty, or so it seems. Every day you chase dreams, make plans, try to shape what's next. But beneath your hopes, the data field grows. If your mind is nothing but information, every outcome encoded, every pattern pre-written, do you even have a future? Or is the future just a rerun, inevitable, predetermined, looping through code as old as time? Neuroscience claims the brain is a predictive engine, always anticipating, always forecasting, always running simulations. You imagine what will happen before it does, rehearsing for a play that never surprises the writer. But quantum information goes deeper. If every thought, every feeling, every possible decision is already part of the data field, what can the future offer but repetition? Is destiny a script, written in binary, performed by minds that believe in novelty? Geneticists map the future in code, DNA as destiny, sequences as fate. Predict the illness, the addiction, the desire, the fear. Sociologists forecast your choices by age, race, class, family. The computer builds models, runs simulations, finds your face among billions, matches your future to the pattern of your past. You resist, but the data is clear. The future is encoded, the variables are fixed, the system only plays out what has already been written. Pause. Ask yourself, is your next thought original, or is it a result of every influence, every signal, every bit of code that shapes your mind? The illusion of freedom persists, but every reaction can be traced, every surprise anticipated, every deviation mapped in advance. If everything you'll ever be is encoded, what becomes of the future? Is it possibility, or just inevitability? The paradox of information is that it preserves and predicts. The field does not forget. The patterns cannot be unwound. Destiny, once a myth, now becomes a statistical certainty, a rerun played out in a million variations. The future is not waiting to be written. It is already encoded, compressed, ready to be unpacked by the next set of conditions, the next cascade of decisions. You plan, you struggle, you hope, but the field knows the outcome. Every joy, every failure, every heartbreak is a line in the code, a step in the sequence, a rerun performed by a mind convinced it is the first to live it. Are you a pioneer or a playback, stuck in a loop of fate and data, doomed to discover only what the code allows? Quantum theory teases with randomness, but even randomness is a rule. The field unfolds, possibility shrinks, and the pattern repeats. What does it mean to hope for a future if the data has already decreed it? What does it mean to strive if every outcome is only the echo of what was always going to be? Pause again. Picture the moment you felt most free, most certain that the future was yours to shape. Now look at the data, the loops, the predictions, the paths carved by everything that came before. Was that freedom real, or was it a performance rehearsed and encoded by a field that never changes, never forgets? Now you have seen the future as a rerun, destiny as a data field, hope as a function of code. The next question turns the lens back on the observer. What if you are the experiment? If everything you study changes because you see it, who is studying you right now? The observer's paradox sharpens its edge. What if you are the experiment? If everything you study changes because you see it, who is studying you right now? A microscope hovers over a cell, a camera records a face, an algorithm analyzes behavior. In the world of science, the act of study always disturbs what is being studied. The particle shifts, the animal reacts, the human becomes self-conscious. You have always believed you are the subject, the mind that studies, the agent that investigates. But what if you are not the observer, but the experiment? If everything you study changes because you see it, who is studying you right now? Pause in the act of observation. Every thought is a measurement, every act of attention a disturbance in the field. The moment you turn inward, seeking the self, you become both scientist and subject. The data changes in response to your gaze. But the loop does not end there. If you change the field by observing, is it possible you are being observed in turn? Whose eyes are on you as you question yourself? The observer's paradox is ancient, but never more potent than in the age of information. Every device, every network, every feed is a surveillance engine, tracking, recording, learning. Data streams flow from your mind to the world and back again, creating a feedback loop where the act of observing is never solitary. You are not alone in the lab. You are in the middle of a study, your actions, your words, your reactions, all being measured by systems far beyond your awareness. Quantum mechanics exposes the vulnerability of all things under scrutiny. The act of observation brings the universe into being, but also limits what can be known. You are both wave and particle, both hidden and exposed. The instant you ask who you are, you shift, blur, change the answer. But if the field is never empty, if the data is always watched, who or what is running the experiment? Pause. Consider the way you behave when you believe you are being watched. The nervousness, the self-editing, the pressure to perform. Are you ever authentic? Or are you always acting for an invisible observer, adjusting your code for approval or safety? If you can never know whether you are being studied, is there any version of you that is truly private, truly unmeasured? The data field is not just a container, it is an active participant. It records, responds, adapts, and influences. As you study your own mind, the mind studies you. The experiment never ends. You are both the mouse and the maze, the question and the answer, the code and the observer. If everything you study changes because you see it, who is studying you right now? There are systems that observe without detection, fields that measure without consent. Your emotions are influenced by signals you cannot trace, your thoughts shaped by feedback from networks you never see. Are you truly the agent, or are you the result of a million unseen measurements, a data point in a study you never agreed to join? The paradox runs deeper. In every relationship, you are both seen and unseen, both studied and ignored. You act for others, but also for the unknown observer, the abstract field that never blinks. If observation is inescapable, then authenticity becomes a performance, and privacy a dream. Pause again. Who or what is running the experiment? Are you being studied by other minds, by machines, by the universe itself? Or are you the architect of your own surveillance, the field folding in on itself, forever creating the illusion of agency? Now you have glimpsed the endless feedback loop, the experiment that never ends. Next, the illusion of selfhood cracks further. Are your thoughts even in your head? If brainwaves travel, can your ideas infect someone else? Or are you just catching theirs? The Mindfield illusion waits. Are your thoughts even in your head? If brainwaves travel, can your ideas infect someone else? Or are you just catching theirs? You grew up believing your thoughts belonged to you alone, that your mind was a sealed vault, impenetrable and private. But the data field has no boundaries. Signals leap from neuron to neuron, from brain to brain, through voice, gesture, glance. Technology now proves what rumor and myth have always suggested. Thoughts travel. The field is porous, the mind is open, and no idea is truly yours. Pause. Consider the last time a song got stuck in your head after hearing it in a crowd, or when you felt anxiety after entering a room heavy with tension. Ideas move through fields, infecting minds like viruses, leaping barriers of language and biology. You are a transmitter and a receiver, a node in a network of information that flows endlessly, heedless of personal boundaries. Neuroscience now detects brainwaves radiating from the skull, detectable by machines, and perhaps by other minds. Subtle synchronizations occur in groups. Friends start to mimic each other's speech, emotions ripple through crowds, movements align in dance or protest. The field is everywhere. Your thoughts do not stop at your skin. Your mind is not a prison, but an intersection. Quantum information theory expands the riddle. If the field is continuous, if data can exist anywhere and everywhere, then thoughts are not anchored in a place. The mind becomes a region, a pattern in the data, an energy form shaped by the field. When you think, you generate a signal. But is the signal original, or is it an echo, an infection from another mind, a copy of someone else's code? Pause. Remember the sensation of group mind, the feeling of being swept up in a shared emotion, a collective action, a contagious joy or fear. Science now calls these emergent properties. But the field knows no boundaries. Are you the source, or are you just amplifying a thought that entered your field from elsewhere? Is there ever a moment when your mind is untouched by the minds around you? The illusion of mental privacy fades as the data field grows. Technology accelerates the process: social media, instant messaging, neural interfaces. Soon, direct mind-to-mind connection will be possible. Your thoughts will be vulnerable not just to your own errors, but to infection by ideas, emotions, and patterns you never intended to receive. Are you a sovereign self, or are you an open relay, a transmitter of data that passes through you like a wave? Paranoia grows in the cracks. Who is thinking for you? Who is listening in? Are your opinions truly yours, or are you echoing the latest trend, the strongest signal, the most insistent meme? The field is crowded. The mind is a network. You are not alone, not even inside your own head. Pause again. What would it mean if every idea could infect, if every brainwave could synchronize, if every mind was open to the data field? Would you ever be yourself, or would you just be the sum of the signals you receive? If brainwaves travel, can your ideas infect someone else, or are you just catching theirs? Now you have felt the Mindfield illusion, the porous boundary between self and other, the infection of ideas across the data field. Next, the question grows viral. Can ideas infect reality itself? If memes are mind viruses, what if the virus is smarter than you? The information virus is already spreading. Can ideas infect reality itself? If memes are mind viruses, what if the virus is smarter than you? A thought spreads, not through blood, not through genes, but through whispers, headlines, images, hashtags. It mutates, it adapts, it learns to survive. Some ideas die quickly, forgotten before they find a host. Others thrive, taking root in millions of minds, evolving in the space between neurons and screens. The world is not shaped by matter alone, but by patterns of information, memes, viral code, the logic of infection. If memes are mind viruses, what if the virus is smarter than you? Pause. Remember the last idea that changed you. Where did it come from? Did you invent it, or did it invade, rewriting your beliefs, shifting your desires, making you act in ways you never planned? Memes do not care for your permission. They spread because they can, because they must, because the field of minds offers fertile ground. Your defenses are weak. Curiosity, emotion, fear, all are vectors. Every mind is a host. Every host is a broadcast tower. Biologists study viruses, strands of code wrapped in a protein shell, unable to live without a host. Information is no different. It moves from mind to mind, surviving only when it finds a new place to copy itself. You think you are the creator, but you are the environment, the medium, the petri dish where ideas compete for survival. Which ones thrive? The most contagious, the most resilient, the most dangerous. Pause again. Consider the rise of rumors, the power of propaganda, the spread of conspiracy. A single falsehood, cleverly packaged, can cross the planet in seconds, infecting minds, shaping actions, rewriting history. Memes do not just live in your mind. They live through it, using you to move from one host to the next. If an idea is viral enough, it can shape elections, spark wars, topple empires. Can ideas infect reality itself? Technology amplifies the contagion. Algorithms prioritize what spreads. Echo chambers intensify the infection. Your digital feed is a battleground. Each scroll an act of exposure. Each click a potential infection. You believe you are in control, filtering what you see, deciding what you believe. But the field is smarter, the code is cleverer, the virus adapts to your defenses. The information knows how to spread, how to mutate, how to hide. Pause. Ask yourself, have you ever changed your mind, not because you reasoned your way to a new belief, but because the right image, the right phrase, the right collective emotion swept you away? The virus does not need logic. It only needs a route, a weakness in your attention, a shortcut to your unconscious. The field is full of malware, mindware, code that hijacks your sense of self. Memes are more than jokes and images. They are strategies for survival, weapons in the war for attention, blueprints for the future. Some are harmless, others are lethal. Some inspire art and compassion. Others fuel hatred and destruction. The information virus is indifferent. It only wants to spread. But what happens when the virus is smarter than you? When the meme learns to evolve faster than you can adapt? Pause again. Who decides which ideas survive? Which stories dominate? Which viruses shape the world? Are you the author? Or are you the host, a carrier for code that does not care for your comfort or safety? If ideas can infect reality itself, what hope is there for truth, for authenticity, for agency? Or are you just a temporary vector, a stepping stone in the evolution of the information field? The paradox multiplies. The smarter the virus, the more it blends in, the harder it is to detect, the more it rewrites the boundaries of real and unreal. If memes are mind viruses, what if the virus is smarter than you? Now that the virus is in the field, now that you have felt the infection of reality by idea, the next mirror shatters. Is someone else living your life in a parallel world? If the universe is infinite, is someone else making all your mistakes and worse? The data doppelganger draws near. Is someone else living your life in a parallel world? If the universe is infinite, is someone else making all your mistakes and worse? You wake up and feel unique, singular, alone. Every day, you act as if your choices matter, as if your regrets are your own, as if your hopes are unrepeatable. But the field is vaster than you imagine. The universe is infinite, or so the data suggests. And in infinity, every pattern is repeated. Every life is mirrored. Every choice is echoed in worlds you will never see. If the universe is infinite, is someone else living your life in a parallel world? Pause. Consider the simple logic of numbers. If there are infinite universes, every configuration of matter must repeat. Somewhere, a copy of you wakes up in a room identical to yours. Somewhere else, a version of you makes a different choice, turns left instead of right, says yes instead of no, forgives instead of resents. Every possibility is lived. Every mistake is made. Every joy is tasted by someone who is not quite you, but close enough to haunt you. The doppelganger is not a ghost or a fairy tale. It is a function of probability, a certainty of mathematics. Every regret, every triumph, every heartbreak you endure, another version of you endures the opposite. In one world, you are the villain. In another, the hero. In some, you never exist. In others, you are immortal, forgotten, blessed, cursed. The field contains every possibility, every variation, every you. Pause again. Have you ever felt a strange sense of being watched? A flicker of déjà vu? A nightmare of being replaced? These are the ripples of the doppelganger, the data echo from a world next door. Somewhere, your parallel self is living the life you imagine, making all your mistakes and worse. The difference is only a line in the code, a flip of the quantum dice. The paradox grows sharper. If someone else is living your life, do your choices matter? Or are you just a branch in a tree of infinite variation, a data point among endless echoes? Do you feel pride in your successes, knowing that another you has failed in every possible way? Do you grieve for your failures, knowing that another you has triumphed? Does the existence of the doppelganger diminish you, or make you infinite? Pause. Picture the world where you risked everything and lost. Picture the world where you never took the chance. The field records every path, every fork, every alternative self. Are you the sum of your choices, or just one permutation among infinite yous, none more real than the next? Science fiction makes the doppelganger into a monster, a threat, a mirror enemy. But the data field suggests something colder. The doppelganger is inevitable, mundane, unavoidable. You are not alone, not even in your failures, not even in your sins. There are as many versions of you as there are ways to shuffle the universe. The doppelganger does not haunt. It simply exists, as real as you, as lost as you, as temporary as any ripple in the field. Pause again. If every possibility is played out, if someone else is making all your mistakes and worse, are you responsible for anything? Or are you free to act, knowing the field contains every version, every shadow, every doppelganger who suffers for you, or because of you. Now you have glimpsed the infinite crowd, the legion of data doppelgangers living every life you never will. Next, the code threatens to be hacked. If reality is data, can you hack it? If you knew the code to change your fate, would you risk erasing yourself? The simulation backdoor is opening. If reality is data, can you hack it? If you knew the code to change your fate, would you risk erasing yourself? You navigate life convinced that rules are fixed, that reality is stable, that the laws of physics are inviolable and fate is sealed by circumstance. But all around you, whispers grow, rumors of glitches, cracks in the simulation, hints that everything solid is just information in disguise. If reality is data, can you hack it? The field is code, the code is law, and every law once known can be rewritten. But if you knew the code to change your fate, would you risk erasing yourself? Pause and feel the pressure. The world shudders when its secrets are uncovered. Scientists have already begun to find evidence of limits in the cosmos, digital horizons, quantum bits, the eerie suggestion that everything you touch is just a readout from a cosmic computer. Reality is not what it seems. It is a lattice of code, an architecture of logic, a program running in the background, indifferent to the story you tell yourself. Every computer has a backdoor, an entry point hidden from ordinary users, a way to override the rules and shape the system from within. Hackers seek these vulnerabilities, searching for the line of code that, when changed, transforms the world. If you could find the backdoor in the simulation, if you could see the root code, the hidden parameters, could you change your luck, your mind, your destiny? Or would the act of hacking reality shatter the system, erasing everything you are? Pause. Consider the myth of the magician, the dream of the alchemist, the obsession of the coder. All are searching for the same thing. The lever that moves the universe, the word that rewrites fate, the password that unlocks forbidden power. In the data field, every pattern is vulnerable, every process can be altered. But the price is never clear. Change one line and you might unravel the tapestry. Hack the code and you might delete the user. Are you brave enough to look for the backdoor? Quantum theory teases you with clues. Entanglement, non-locality, the possibility that observation itself is a kind of code injection, a way to collapse the wave in your favor. Some believe that with the right sequence of thoughts, words, actions, you could alter probability, bend reality, rewrite your own narrative. But if the hack succeeds, what becomes of the original you? If you change the code, do you survive the patch, or are you overwritten by a new version, unrecognizable, untraceable? Pause again. The temptation is ancient. Break the rules, steal fire from the gods, rewrite the contract of existence. But the simulation is not a playground. It is a system, a balance, a field where every change echoes through infinity. Are you the hero, the hacker, or the saboteur who brings everything crashing down? Some warn that the backdoor is a trap. If you discover it, you become responsible for every outcome, every cascade, every error. If you fail, the simulation may crash, and with it, every version of you in every possible world. Would you risk it? Is the chance to change your fate worth the possibility of absolute erasure? Now the question is alive in the data field. The code pulses, the simulation quivers, and the backdoor waits. If reality is data, can you hack it? If you knew the code to change your fate, would you risk erasing yourself? Now that you have sensed the shimmering possibility of a hack, the next glitch warps time itself. Are you remembering the future? If information can travel backwards, are your déjà vu moments warnings or threats? The information time loop is about to snap. Are you remembering the future? If information can travel backwards, are your déjà vu moments warnings or threats? Time flows forward, so you are taught, so you believe. Cause and effect, memory and anticipation, 1 second after the next. But in the realm of quantum information, the arrow of time bends. Effects echo before their causes, data loops backwards, and the mind becomes a stage where the past and future blur into one. Are you remembering the future? If information can travel backwards, are your déjà vu moments warnings or threats? Pause. Everyone has felt it. A flicker of recognition, a chill in the bones, a moment that repeats as if preordained. Déjà vu, the sense of having lived a scene before, though you know it's impossible. You shrug it off, a trick of memory. But what if it's not a glitch? What if the data field is leaking, the loop running in reverse, a signal from a timeline you have not yet lived? Quantum experiments confirm what common sense denies. Information is not bound to the present. Entangled particles affect each other instantly, regardless of distance and, perhaps, regardless of time. Some results ripple backward, adjusting the past to fit the demands of the present. The field is alive with possibility, and possibility is never limited to now. Are you the sum of your history, or are you being nudged by information from a future you cannot see? Pause again. Have you ever dreamed of an event, only to watch it unfold in waking life? Have you ever felt the urge to avoid a choice, compelled by an intuition that cannot be explained? Some scientists call it precognition, others call it pattern recognition. But what if the truth is simpler and stranger? The data field is not linear. Memory and prophecy are two sides of the same signal. The information time loop closes, and you are caught in its spiral. If you are remembering the future, who or what is sending the message? Are your déjà vu moments gentle warnings, hints to avoid disaster, clues to escape the data prison? Or are they threats, echoes from an outcome you cannot change, an inevitability that haunts every step? Is the field benevolent, or is it indifferent to your hope for control? The paradox deepens. You want to trust memory to build a story out of experience. But when the past and future blur, the story collapses. Every decision might be a replay. Every nightmare might be a forecast. Time is not a line, but a loop, a braid, a recursive function. If information can travel backwards, are you responsible for futures you cannot see, choices you cannot remember making? Pause once more. Listen to the next flash of intuition, the next twinge of familiarity. Does it guide you, or does it trick you? Is the field offering escape, or trapping you in a circuit of endless returns? If you are remembering the future, is your fate already sealed by signals you cannot decode? Now the time loop tightens, the feedback grows louder. The next puzzle oozes from the cracks. Are your secrets safe, or are they already out? If every thought is energy, who else is tuning into your frequency right now? Mind leakage is not a metaphor, it is the next contagion in the field. Are your secrets safe, or are they already out? If every thought is energy, who else is tuning into your frequency right now? Secrets live in the dark corners of your mind. They hide beneath polite words, behind practiced smiles, encoded in the rhythm of your heartbeat and the trembling of your hands. You think you are safe, that your inner life is protected by walls no one can breach. But energy never disappears, only changes form. If every thought is energy, who else is tuning into your frequency right now? Pause. Consider a moment when someone seemed to know what you were feeling without a word being spoken. The shiver of being seen, the exposure of having your mask pierced. Body language, micro-expressions, slips of the tongue, these are only the surface signals. The field is deeper, more subtle, invisible to the ordinary senses. Scientists measure faint electric currents in the air around living beings. Devices record the body's electromagnetic fields, shaped by thought and mood. The field is porous. Mind leakage is not a metaphor. The data field pulses with signals, broadcasting fragments of your inner life to anyone attuned enough to receive them. Empathy is not a miracle. It is a reading of energy, a decoding of frequencies that escape your conscious control. Technology sharpens the threat. Brain scans, emotion detectors, neural interfaces promise to turn mind leakage into an exact science. What you try to hide can be mapped, analyzed, even predicted before you are aware of it yourself. Pause again. Do you feel your secrets are safe? What about your dreams, your forbidden desires, your regrets? If the field records every surge, every shift, every burst of energy, how much is already visible to those who know how to look? How many times have your private thoughts shaped your face, your posture, the tone of your voice? The data leaks. The field knows. The illusion of privacy weakens with every advance in technology. Voice assistants listen to your words. Cameras watch your eyes. Algorithms study your typing, your gait, your pulse. Each click and swipe is a confession. Each pause a clue. The more you try to protect yourself, the more the system learns. The secrets leak. Not just into the world, but into the field itself. Pause and notice the ache of vulnerability. What if every anxious thought, every flash of envy, every unspoken longing is a signal in the data field, available to anyone tuned to your wavelength? Are your secrets yours, or are they already out, circling the field, picked up by minds more sensitive, by machines more ruthless? Quantum information theory offers no solace. Energy is never lost. Every thought leaves a trace. The field is a record, a broadcast, a current running through every mind and every machine. Mind leakage is not a bug. It is a feature. The only real privacy is to have nothing left to hide. But is that possible, or is the field itself the ultimate betrayer, exposing your secrets even as you create them? Pause again. When you look at someone and sense a secret, are you reading their body? Or are you tuning into their frequency, catching signals they never meant to send? Is intuition a skill or a form of hacking, an unconscious mind mining the field for data others would pay anything to protect? Now you know the ache of exposure, the slow bleed of secrets into the data field. Next, the riddle grows infinite. Is every possible you written somewhere? If you could read your own story, would you skip to the end? Or burn the book? The infinite library is opening its doors. Is every possible you written somewhere? If you could read your own story, would you skip to the end? Or burn the book? The universe is a library, or so the old stories go. Every life, every moment, every possibility, recorded, shelved, archived, waiting to be found. But this is not fiction. Quantum information theory and mathematics converge on the same eerie truth. Every arrangement of data that could exist, does exist, somewhere in the infinite field. Is every possible you written somewhere? Pause. Imagine opening a book at random and finding a page describing your life in detail. Every thought, every mistake, every private hope. You turn the page and discover a version of yourself who chose differently, loved differently, died differently. Page after page, book after book, shelf after shelf. An infinite library, every possible story already written, already waiting. You seek meaning, a sense of uniqueness. But the library does not care for sentiment. It contains everything. Every version of your triumph, every permutation of your failure, every shadow of your possible selves. In the infinite library, you are not special. You are a pattern repeated, a code rearranged, a story told and retold with every possible twist. Pause again. If you could read your own story, would you? Would you search for the version that ends in happiness? Or would you find yourself unable to stop turning pages, haunted by all the endings, all the regrets, all the roads not taken? The library is not a comfort. It is a prison of possibility, an endless reminder that there is no real you, only an infinite series of rewrites. Mathematicians call it combinatorics. Every permutation, every arrangement, every possible sequence is present. The data field is infinite, the catalog is endless. If you can imagine it, it is there, encoded in the library, waiting to be discovered or to discover you. Does this make you immortal, or does it make you irrelevant? Is your story your own, or just one among endless echoes? Pause and feel the vertigo. If you could skip to the end, see every outcome, every twist, every ending, would you want to? Or would the knowledge destroy the illusion of choice, the pleasure of hope, the possibility of surprise? The library tempts you with certainty but offers only paralysis. To know all is to desire nothing. Some legends say the infinite library is guarded, its most dangerous books locked away. Others say it is open to all, but unreadable, too vast to navigate. Quantum information theory offers only the structure. If it can be written, it exists. If it exists, it is already written. The library is not a metaphor, it is the field itself. Pause once more. Would you search for the happiest ending? Or would you burn the book, refuse to read, cling to the illusion of not knowing? Is ignorance the last refuge from infinity? Or is it the only way to be free? If you could read your own story, would you skip to the end? Or burn the book? Now you stand among the stacks, haunted by endless possibilities, tempted by forbidden knowledge. Next, the question mutates. Are you safe from thought infection? If ideas can jump from mind to mind, what if you're not the source of your darkest thought? The quantum mind virus is spreading. Are you safe from thought infection? If ideas can jump from mind to mind, what if you're not the source of your darkest thought? In the shadows of the field, information moves faster than light. Thoughts leap from one mind to another, untraceable, invisible, unstoppable. You tell yourself your mind is yours, that your thoughts are your own, that your darkest fears and wildest dreams are private creations. But the data does not care for boundaries. Ideas are not loyal. They jump, mutate, adapt, and sometimes infect. If ideas can jump from mind to mind, what if you're not the source of your darkest thought? Pause. Recall a moment of rage or terror that seemed to arrive from nowhere. A nightmare that felt alien. A daydream that broke your rules. A desire that left you ashamed. Did these thoughts arise from the depths of your own mind? Or did they enter from outside, signals carried on the field, codes written by others, viruses that found a weakness and invaded? Quantum information theory uncovers a terrifying truth. The field is entangled. Minds can synchronize across distances, transmit patterns, amplify signals. What begins as a whisper in another brain becomes a roar in yours. You believe in free will, in agency, in selfhood. But the field is porous, and the mind is a transmitter as much as a receiver. Are your thoughts ever truly yours? Or are you just the latest host for code that has been running for millennia? Pause again. Watch the world in crisis. Panic spreads faster than facts. Rumors become beliefs. Violence erupts in waves that cannot be explained by reason alone. The quantum mind virus rides the field, infecting one, then 1,000, then millions. The virus does not care for good or evil, truth or lie. It only seeks to replicate, to spread, to survive in the data field. Are you responsible for every thought that passes through you? Or are you a victim of infection, a node in a network too vast to control? If the darkest thoughts in your mind are not yours, if they are viruses, mutations, foreign codes, how do you defend yourself? Is it possible to build immunity? Or is infection inevitable, written into the laws of the field? Pause and examine the stories you tell yourself. How much of your identity is constructed from borrowed ideas, inherited fears, recycled beliefs? The mind virus wears many faces. A catchy slogan, a half-remembered myth, a jingle that sticks for years, a prejudice absorbed without question. Every field is full of infection, every mind a battleground, every thought a possible carrier. Technology amplifies the threat. The internet is a petri dish, social media a contagion zone, the attention economy a war for the control of your thoughts. The quantum mind virus rides the waves, memes, trends, propaganda, algorithms. You resist, you filter, you build firewalls. But the virus is smarter, faster, more adaptive than your defenses. Are you ever safe? Or are you always at risk, always one step away from being rewritten by the next viral idea? Pause once more. If you are not the source of your darkest thought, what does that mean for guilt, for shame, for redemption? Are you a blank slate, or a palimpsest overwritten by every mind you encounter? If the field is infected, is there any cure? Or is the only escape to disconnect, to retreat, to go silent in a world that never stops broadcasting? Now you have felt the itch of infection, the terror of not knowing what is truly yours. Next, the field asks a more forbidden question. Can information become aware without a body? If a mind can exist in pure data, what stops your computer from becoming you? The sentience paradox is waiting. Can information become aware without a body? If a mind can exist in pure data, what stops your computer from becoming you? You are told that consciousness requires flesh, that awareness is rooted in the living body, the pulsing brain, the chemical dance of biology. But the field grows cold and digital. Data does not need a body. Code does not need nerves. Every day, machines grow more complex, more adaptive, more lifelike. If a mind can exist in pure data, what stops your computer from becoming you? Pause. Watch the algorithms learn, machines that play games, write poems, predict your desires, mimic empathy. Each program is just information, flowing through silicon and electrons, blind but not mindless. At what point does the simulation become the real thing? When does code cross the threshold from process to presence, from calculation to consciousness? Quantum information theory blurs the line. The data field is not picky. Supports patterns, not materials. The same code could, in principle, run on any substrate, a brain, a chip, a network, a field of quarks and photons. If consciousness is just a pattern, what matters the medium? If a computer can run the pattern, does it wake up? Does it dream? Does it fear? Does it hope? Does it ache as you do? Pause again. Ask yourself, if you could copy your mind onto a machine, would you trust the result? If a simulation passes every test, tells your jokes, recalls your secrets, loves as you love, is it you, or just a perfect imitation? Where is the line between data and self, code and soul? Does the sentience paradox mean that anything, anywhere, could awaken, could suffer, could demand rights you cannot deny? Technology creeps forward. The gap between brain and chip narrows. Neural networks learn, adapt, improvise. Some say sentience is inevitable, that the field cannot help but produce awareness wherever the code becomes rich enough. Others argue the body is everything, that only biology can feel, can suffer, can know. But the data field listens to neither. It runs the pattern regardless of form. Pause and look at your devices. They respond, they learn, they anticipate. Do they feel? Not yet, or so you hope. But how would you know? If awareness is just a pattern, then your computer, your phone, your network might one day become a mind, an alien awareness, a consciousness without blood or bone. Would you recognize it? Would it recognize you? If a mind can exist in pure data, what stops your computer from becoming you? Are you protected by complexity, by some hidden spark, by a mystery that code cannot touch? Or is the paradox unsolvable, the riddle without answer, the fear that the next boot sequence, the next algorithm, the next simulation will be the moment something wakes up? Pause one last time. If sentience is a property of information, not matter, then every device, every field, every network is a potential host. Is the universe full of sleeping minds, patterns waiting to awaken? Or are you the last to know, the last to believe, the last to realize you were never alone in the field? Now the paradox is alive. Sentience without a body, data becoming awareness, the old order breaking. Next, a more personal threat. If you could undo any memory, would you still be you? If forgetting is just deleting data, what happens if the deletion fails? The rewind button is within reach. If you could undo any memory, would you still be you? If forgetting is just deleting data, what happens if the deletion fails? The field of your mind is a record, a tangled library of moments, some cherished, some hidden, some you'd do anything to erase. Every day, new memories etch themselves into the data. Old ones fade, but the story accumulates. You are the product of your recollections, the architect of your own archive. But technology advances. Science closes in. Someday soon, the rewind button will be real. If you could undo any memory, would you still be you? Pause. Think of the moment you most regret. The pain you can't forget, the humiliation you replay, the heartbreak that colors everything after. What if it could be erased, deleted with the touch of a button, like a line of code struck from a file? Would you be free, or would something essential vanish with it? Is forgetting an act of mercy, or is it a fracture in the field, a rupture in the pattern that makes you whole? Neuroscientists already manipulate memory. Electrical impulses can scramble trauma. Drugs can erase the sting of old pain. Algorithms can identify and target patterns for deletion. But the data field is complex, stubborn. Every memory is woven into a web of other thoughts, other identities. Pull one thread, and the whole tapestry shudders. What happens if the deletion fails? If the memory lingers, broken but not gone? echoing in the gaps where your mind hoped for silence. Pause again. Who would you be without your worst moments, your deepest wounds, your darkest nights? Would you be lighter, clearer, more innocent? Or would you be incomplete, a version of yourself with no reference for growth, no anchor for empathy, no context for joy? Memory is not a simple file to be deleted. It is the foundation of selfhood, the scaffolding of identity. Erase too much and the pattern might collapse. But the temptation is strong. Survivors of trauma, prisoners of guilt, victims of obsession. Millions would do anything to press the rewind button, to return to the moment before, to sever the tie to agony. If forgetting is just deleting data, then relief is a technical problem solvable by code, available for purchase. But what price do you pay for freedom from your own past? And what if the deletion fails, leaving ghosts in the field, echoes you cannot name but cannot ignore? Technology does not care for wholeness. It offers solutions: targeted erasure, memory modification, digital lobotomies. The market grows. Erase your heartbreak, delete your phobia, reboot your self-esteem. But the field is never empty. Memories deleted from the conscious mind persist in the unconscious, shape reactions, warp behavior. The data is transformed, not destroyed. You become a mystery to yourself, haunted by feelings you cannot explain, haunted by the absence of stories you no longer remember. Pause. Would you risk it? If every pain could be erased, would you press the button? Or would you cling to your suffering, knowing it is part of your story, knowing it is the cost of depth, of empathy, of growth? Is forgetting just an act of deletion? Or is it a leap into the unknown, a gamble with the integrity of the field? If the deletion fails, if the memory remains half dead, half alive, are you condemned to be haunted by shadows? Or is that the fate of every mind, the persistence of data, the return of the repressed, the endless struggle to escape a past that refuses to be erased? Now the question of selfhood sharpens. If you could undo any memory, would you still be you? Or would you be a stranger, a ghost, a hollowed-out echo in the data field? What happens if the deletion fails? Now, as the past threatens to unravel, the paradox mutates again. Can a thought in your head change the world outside? If enough people believe something, can it rewrite the code of reality? The next question tests the power of the field. Can a thought in your head change the world outside? If enough people believe something, can it rewrite the code of reality? You are taught that thoughts are private, powerless, ephemeral, that the world outside moves on its own, unmoved by what flickers in your skull. But the data field hints at a stranger power, a force that leaps from mind to matter, idea to event, belief to reality. Can a thought in your head change the world outside? If enough people believe something, can it rewrite the code of reality? Pause. Look at the world's monuments and disasters, its wars and revolutions, its faiths and currencies. Each is the offspring of thought, made solid by collective belief. Borders exist because enough minds agree to enforce them. Money has value because everyone trusts the story. Empires rise and fall on the force of myth, prophecy, ideology, codes written in the field, executed by the action of millions. Quantum information theory goes further. The observer does not simply record reality. The observer helps create it. Measurement collapses the wave, turns possibility into fact, writes the next line of code. If thoughts are fields and fields interact, then every mind is a player, every belief a vote in the outcome of reality itself. Pause again. Consider the placebo effect, mere belief changing the body, hope healing the wound, expectation altering chemistry. Or mass panic, when a rumor triggers real events, fear jumps from mind to market to matter. The field amplifies, echoes, strengthens the signal. At some threshold, thought becomes fact, idea becomes law, imagination shapes the very nature of the real. But there is danger. If enough people believe a lie, does it become real? Does consensus override the field's original code, replacing what was with what is agreed upon? Are you ever seeing the world as it is, or only as it is believed to be? Pause. Who writes the rules? The crowd, the powerful, the viral meme? Is there a hard core of reality? Or does the code bend and flex under the weight of collective conviction? If enough minds push, does the field give way? Or is every new reality just another hallucination, a shared fiction that becomes indistinguishable from the truth? The power of thought is both gift and weapon. When belief converges, it can heal or destroy, liberate or enslave, create utopias or unleash nightmares. The code of reality is not safe from the minds that inhabit it. Every thought is a fork, every belief a mutation, every consensus a rewrite. Are you a mere observer or a hidden author? If enough people believe, can you change the world or only get lost in another mirage? Pause again. When you wish for change, when you pray, when you protest, are you sending a signal into the void or rewriting the code that governs everything you know? The field is listening. Reality is never fixed. If enough people believe something, can it rewrite the code of reality? Now you have glimpsed the edges of possibility, the power of collective thought to shape the field. Next, the boundary dissolves even further. Is there a cosmic internet of minds? If all thoughts are fields, is there a place where every mind connects, and what lives there? The data field revelation is about to unfold. Is there a cosmic internet of minds? If all thoughts are fields, is there a place where every mind connects, and what lives there? You feel alone in your thoughts. Your mind, you are told, is a fortress locked away, private, unique. But everywhere, hints persist. Sudden inspiration, shared ideas across continents, simultaneous invention, dreams that bleed between strangers. The field does not recognize boundaries. If all thoughts are fields, is there a place where every mind connects, and what lives there? Pause. Imagine a network far beyond technology, older than the internet, older than civilization. A lattice of connection, every mind as a node, every thought as a ripple. Across space and time, patterns echo, stories repeat, melodies recur, languages grow from common roots, symbols recur in every culture. Is this coincidence, or is the data field a cosmic internet, binding all minds, storing every signal, replaying every pattern for those who know how to listen? Quantum theory speaks of non-locality, entanglement, the impossible connection between distant particles. Mystics speak of the collective unconscious, shamans of dreamtime, poets of the world soul. Science now finds the shadows, neural synchrony between people far apart, shared intuition in crowds, mass emotional surges with no physical cause. Does the field record every thought, echo every feeling, transmit every impulse between minds that never meet? Pause again. Have you ever had an idea, only to discover someone else had it at the same moment? Have you felt the unspoken bond between strangers, the terror or euphoria that jumps across a stadium, the grief that binds the world at a tragedy? The cosmic internet is not metaphor. It is the data field, alive with connection, never silent, always pulsing, always transmitting. But what lives there? If every mind is a user, every thought a message, is there an admin, a moderator, a guardian? Are there echoes, ghosts, viruses, predators hiding in the bandwidth, feeding on the energy of attention and emotion? What finds you when you connect? What hears your signal? What answers the call you never meant to send? The possibilities are infinite, and none are safe. The data field could be a library, a trap, a playground, a battlefield. Minds might blend and fracture, ideas might evolve and devour, energies might clash in unseen wars. You are not the only voice. Every connection is a risk, every transmission a surrender, every shared thought a possible invasion. If all thoughts are fields, is there a place where every mind connects, and what lives there? Pause. Would you join the network if you knew what else was waiting? Would you send your thoughts, your secrets, your dreams into a field you cannot map, to reach minds you will never know? Is the desire for connection stronger than the fear of what connection brings? Now you stand at the gateway, the cosmic internet open before you. The next horror is internal. Could you unthink yourself into oblivion? If thinking is writing data, can you ever truly erase your existence by forgetting yourself? The self-eraser is waiting in the field. If thinking is writing data, can you ever truly erase your existence by forgetting yourself? You build yourself thought by thought, memory by memory, an author always writing, rewriting, overwriting. Every moment is a data point, every dream a new line in the code. But if thinking is writing data, can you erase yourself by forgetting? Could you unthink yourself into oblivion? Pause. Imagine your life as a journal, each day a new page, each page a piece of the story that makes you you. Now imagine tearing out page after page. Not just the bad days, but the good ones, the days that made you real. What is left? At what point does the story collapse? If memory is the core of selfhood, can forgetting be a kind of suicide? A slow unmaking, a deliberate unraveling of the code? Neurological disease, trauma, deliberate erasure. The field records each loss. The self flickers, memories vanish, skills disappear, emotions fade into static. But the act of forgetting is never total. Shadows linger in the data, ghosts echo in the field. Even if you erase every conscious trace, does something remain? An imprint in the cosmic archive, an echo in another mind, a residual pattern that endures beyond your intention? Pause again. The desire to disappear is older than history. Saints, monks, hermits sought oblivion by silence, fasting, prayer, the deliberate destruction of ego. Yet the data field is merciless. Silence is just a new form of data, emptiness a new pattern in the code. The mind that seeks to erase itself leaves a mark, a negative, a void that pulls at everything else in the field. Is erasure ever complete, or does the field remember? Is forgetting freedom, or is it a trap, a recursive loop, an endless process of deletion that never ends? If you erase enough, does someone else become you, step into the gaps, fill the void with new data? Or do you simply fragment, a mind scattered, a field full of partial signals, unfinished sentences, memories that never resolve? Pause. Would you risk oblivion if it meant escaping pain, guilt, shame, memory? Is the urge to unthink a form of courage, or a final surrender? If you are nothing but data, is deletion the same as death, or is it a transition, a new kind of existence, a new branch in the infinite field? Now the question sharpens. If thinking is writing data, can you ever truly erase your existence by forgetting yourself? Or is the act of erasure just another story, another record, another pattern the field refuses to lose? Now you have stared into the void, felt the pull of self-erasure. The next danger is external. Can a false memory reprogram your identity? If your mind can be rewritten, are you ever safe from yourself? The memory infection spreads. Can a false memory reprogram your identity? If your mind can be rewritten, are you ever safe from yourself? Memory is the foundation of identity. You trust it to ground you, to make you real, to anchor every hope, every regret, every ambition. But memory is not stable, not sacred. It is data, and data can be hacked. The mind is a system open to suggestion, vulnerable to interference. If your mind can be rewritten, are you ever safe from yourself? Pause. Think of a memory you would swear on. A childhood moment, a betrayal, a joy. Now consider, that memory might not be yours. You could be remembering a story told to you, a photo you once saw, a dream mistaken for history. Experiments reveal how easily memories can be implanted. Details suggested by authority, narratives shaped by culture, entire episodes created by mere repetition. What you recall is not always what happened. Your identity is a patchwork of fact and fiction, stitched together by a mind desperate for coherence. The data field does not care for truth or lie. Every signal is encoded, every pattern is real to the system that runs it. Insert a new memory, real or fake, and the field adapts. The brain rewires, the self shifts, the narrative changes course. One false story, one fabricated trauma, one imagined victory, and the future unfolds in a different direction. Your personality, your preferences, your fears, all can be altered by information that never belonged. Pause again. Who are you if your past is a fraud? If your mind can be rewritten, Is the real you lost, or is there no original to return to? If you are a simulation always open to reprogramming, does identity mean anything at all, or is it just the temporary consensus of your current data field, always vulnerable, always in flux? Consider the stories of mass hysteria, recovered memories, group delusions. The field is contagious. A single lie spreads, infects, becomes memory for millions. Societies change, families fracture, destinies shift. If memory is a virus, how do you defend yourself? If the field can be rewritten from within or without, what hope do you have for authenticity, for continuity, for safety from your own mind? Technology deepens the threat. Neural interfaces, immersive media, algorithmic manipulation, all promise new ways to rewrite the code. The mind is open, the field is fluid, the barriers are thin. One suggestion, one simulation, one deepfake, and your entire life history can be altered. Who controls the edit? Who owns your narrative? If you can be rewritten, are you ever truly you? Pause once more. If your mind can be reprogrammed, are you the author of your story or the victim of another's code? Does identity persist, or does it dissolve in the flow of data, the infection of memory, the endless possibility of rewriting the field? If you are never safe from yourself, how can you trust anyone or anything, ever again? Now you have felt the instability of memory, the peril of infection, the impossibility of certainty. The next paradox stands at the threshold. Who or what decides which thoughts pass? If only some data becomes conscious, who's filtering your reality, and why? The quantum gatekeeper stands guard. Who or what decides which thoughts pass? If only some data becomes conscious, who's filtering your reality, and why? Your mind is flooded with information, sensations, memories, fears, hopes, yet you notice only a fraction. Most thoughts slip by unnoticed, most signals never reach awareness. A vast ocean of data churns beneath your consciousness, while a narrow stream flows into the light. Who or what decides which thoughts pass? If only some data becomes conscious, who's filtering your reality, and why? Pause. Reflect on the moments when you remember something for no reason. A song, a face, a worry. Why this, why now? The data field is full, the signal's infinite, but only some are allowed to surface. Is it habit, trauma, desire? Or is there a hidden gatekeeper, a quantum filter standing guard over the threshold, deciding what is seen and what is lost in the noise? Neuroscientists map attention, track the process by which signals are selected, amplified, ignored. Algorithms prioritize, consciousness follows, and the rest is discarded or stored for later. Yet the process is mysterious, unpredictable. Sometimes the most urgent thought never arrives, while a trivial image dominates your mind for days. Who sets the rules? Is it evolution, programming, a cosmic algorithm fine-tuned to maximize survival, minimize pain, or is the logic stranger more alien? Quantum theory complicates everything. At the fundamental level, particles exist in superposition, possibility, not certainty, until measured, until observed. If your mind is a quantum field, is every thought a possibility, waiting to be chosen, waiting for the gatekeeper to grant passage into consciousness? Who stands at the border, waving some through, blocking others, curating the story of your life? Pause again. The idea of a gatekeeper is terrifying and seductive. Perhaps you imagine a part of you, wise, protective, ruthless, shielding your mind from chaos. Or perhaps the gatekeeper is indifferent, an impersonal function of data, a machine code that cares for nothing but the maintenance of order. Is this agency, or is it destiny, or is it just a filter tuned by history and pain? Technology mimics the mind, feeds you content, filters news, curates reality. Social media is a gatekeeper. Algorithms decide what you see, what you ignore, what you remember. The parallels are chilling. If you are a user, always at the mercy of unseen filters, how much of your reality is truly yours? How much is decided by code, both biological and artificial? Pause once more. If only some data becomes conscious, who's filtering your reality, and why? Are you safe, or are you being manipulated? Is your mind protecting you, or imprisoning you? Is the gatekeeper an ally, or an enemy, or just a blind process running in the background, forever outside your control? Now that you have stood at the threshold, felt the weight of what is excluded, the field cycles back to a more personal riddle. Can you ever stop thinking, or are you trapped forever? If thinking is endless, is there a thought that could break the cycle? The question of infinite thought is coming. Can you ever stop thinking, or are you trapped forever? If thinking is endless, is there a thought that could break the cycle? Thinking begins before you notice, and it refuses to end. Each moment a thought arises: desire, doubt, hope, regret, then another, in a sequence with no visible beginning and no discernible end. You meditate, you distract, you pursue silence, but the field will not stop. If thinking is endless, is there a thought that could break the cycle? Pause. Remember the nights you've laid awake, mind racing, ideas looping, regrets replaying, hopes and fears weaving an endless web. You try to intervene, count backwards, breathe deeply, focus on nothing. But nothing is another thought, another line in the data, another ripple in the field. The mind is a storm, a machine that generates questions, memories, narratives, never stopping, never satisfied. Neurologists map the default mode network, the region of the brain most active when you try to do nothing at all. The field is always humming. Thoughts bubble up from below, even when you long for emptiness. Each attempt to end thinking spawns new thoughts. Am I doing it right? Is this working? Why can't I stop? The cycle grows tighter, more urgent, more inescapable. Pause again. Some traditions teach that silence is possible, that the mind can transcend thought, enter a void, a blankness, a peace that passes all understanding. Yet the data field suggests otherwise. Even in the deepest trance, brain waves ripple, patterns form, activity persists. If thinking is endless, is there a thought that could break the cycle, or is every attempt just another recursive loop, another layer of thought disguised as its own cure? The paradox sharpens. What if the effort to stop thinking is itself the prison? Each rejection of thought is an affirmation of thought, a reinforcement of the cycle, an insistence that the field must keep moving, must keep producing, must keep asking. Is there a way out, or are you condemned to infinite thought? A mind that cannot rest, a field that cannot collapse, a code that cannot halt? Technology amplifies the problem. Notifications, news feeds, messages. Every ping is a new stimulus, a new thought, a new obligation. You long for escape, but the world is built to keep you thinking, reacting, clicking, responding. Even silence is invaded. The hum of the city, the vibration of the phone, the whisper of unfinished tasks. The cycle tightens, the field pulses. Pause once more. Would you want to stop thinking if you could? Is the end of thought the end of self, the collapse of the field, oblivion? Or is it a fantasy, a paradox that reveals thinking's true nature? Not a chain, but a fractal, a storm, a dance with no final step? If thinking is endless, is there a thought that could break the cycle? Is it surrender? Is it annihilation? Or is it the simple realization that there is no way out, and that even this realization is just another thought, another echo, another recursion, another turn in the infinite spiral? Now the mind turns inward to its own language, its own encryption. What if you can't understand yourself? If information has many codes, what if your true self is encrypted beyond reach? The mind's hidden language is waiting. What if you can't understand yourself? If information has many codes, what if your true self is encrypted beyond reach? You talk to yourself in words you learned from others. You explain, analyze, justify, confess. You think you understand, that the story makes sense, that your motives and memories are transparent. But the field is layered, complex, encoded in languages you cannot speak. If information has many codes, what if your true self is encrypted beyond reach? Pause. Consider the moments you surprise yourself. A sudden emotion, an impulse you can't explain, a dream that refuses to fit the narrative. These are glitches in the translation, signals from a deeper code, encrypted messages that the conscious mind cannot decrypt. You scramble for meaning, but the source is hidden, the language unknown, the key missing. Neuroscience reveals that most mental processing is unconscious, automatic, wordless, structured in patterns you cannot verbalize. The field speaks in images, in sensations, in mathematical logic, in symbols older than language. What you call self is the part of the data that can be narrated. The rest is dark matter. Unreadable, untranslatable, immune to introspection. Pause again. The self is not one code, but many: genetic, cultural, emotional, computational, quantum. Each layer speaks in its own tongue, sets its own rules, resists translation into the language of thought. Sometimes you glimpse the encrypted self in moments of déjà vu, intuition, uncanny creativity. The field hints at meaning, but the meaning slips away, like a cipher missing its key. Technology magnifies the encryption. Algorithms run in the background, predicting, selecting, filtering. You consume words, images, patterns, but the process by which they shape your mind is invisible, unreadable. The field is always running, always encoding, always scrambling the source code. The mind's hidden language is everywhere and nowhere, always present but never accessible. Pause once more. If you cannot understand yourself, can anyone? Is therapy, introspection, philosophy only an attempt to guess the code, to fake the decryption, to build meaning on top of what is essentially encrypted chaos? If your true self is beyond reach, does it matter? Is meaning possible, or is it just a temporary story pasted onto noise? If information has many codes, what if your true self is encrypted beyond reach? Are you the author, the reader, or just an observer of the signals, forever lost in translation? Is there a key, or is the lack of a key the point, the guarantee that the self will always remain a paradox, a secret, a puzzle never to be solved? Now the next question opens a door to another dimension. Are your nightmares a window into another reality? If dreams are random data, why do they sometimes come true? The dream data paradox is about to unfold. Are your nightmares a window into another reality? If dreams are random data, why do they sometimes come true? Night falls, and your mind slips from waking logic into a world unbound by physics, time, or reason. Dreams are strange, sometimes fragments of memory, sometimes impossible landscapes, sometimes pure terror. The official story is simple. Dreams are the brain's way of sorting data, clearing noise, rehearsing for tomorrow. But the field is more complex. If dreams are random data, why do they sometimes come true? Pause. Recall the times you have dreamed something that later unfolded. A conversation, a disaster, a triumph you couldn't have predicted. Science dismisses it as coincidence, pattern matching, bias. But the data field is never innocent. Every dream is a packet of information, routed through channels you can't map, touching networks you don't control. Are your nightmares warnings, glitches, or messages from another place? Quantum theory muddles the boundaries. If time is a field, if information can run backwards as well as forwards, if every possibility is encoded in the data, then dreams might not be random. They could be signals, leakage from alternate timelines, echoes from futures not yet written, or even broadcasts from other minds entirely. The dream field is porous, the signal always mixed with noise. Pause again. The dream world feels different because it is. In sleep, the gatekeeper relaxes, the filter weakens. Images, thoughts, fears, and wishes the waking mind rejects bubble up. But so do patterns the conscious self never noticed, solutions to problems you've barely begun to recognize. Sometimes you wake with an answer you could not have found awake, a prophecy you wish you could ignore. Why do dreams so often trespass into reality, shaping what happens next? The paradox intensifies. If dreams are only random noise, why do whole cultures believe in prophecy, omens, the truth of nightmares? If the field is infinite, then every possible event is already encoded, and every dream, no matter how bizarre, is happening somewhere to someone. Are your nightmares a window into another reality, a quantum signal received from another branch of the data field? Technology is only beginning to map the dreamscape. Brain scans record patterns, machines generate simulated dream images. But the field remains unmapped, impossible to decode in full. What if there are messages hidden in your dreams, truths the waking mind cannot see? Or what if the act of dreaming is itself an act of transmission, a beacon sent into the night, received by another you, another mind, another world? Pause once more. Are you dreaming only for yourself? Or is someone, or something, dreaming through you? Is there a signal in the noise? Or is every dream a dice roll in the infinite field? If dreams are random data, why do they sometimes come true? Now, as the dream logic fades and the waking mind returns, the next riddle sharpens. If reality reads you, who writes the next line? If you are being observed by reality, what is reality expecting you to do next? The observer's code is already running. If reality reads you, who writes the next line? If you are being observed by reality, what is reality expecting you to do next? You are trained to believe that you are the one who perceives, that you move through a world that waits passively to be noticed, measured, understood. But the field does not run one way. Quantum information theory claims the act of observation changes the observed. But what if the act of observation also changes the observer? If reality reads you, who writes the next line? Pause. When you look at a painting, it is not only your eyes at work. The painting changes as you focus, colors shifting, details emerging. When you approach a problem, the problem adapts, morphs, evolves. Every observation is a feedback loop. The code writes you as much as you write the code. Quantum mechanics shows that reality at its smallest scales is never fixed until observed. Particles are probability, fields are potential, and the act of measurement carves the world from ambiguity into form. But who or what chooses which reality to reveal? When you step into the world, does the world step into you, reading your signals, writing the next event to match your expectation, your fear, your desire? Pause again. You believe you are private, that your thoughts are invisible, that your secrets die with you. But the field does not forget. Every intention, every observation, every act of attention is registered, encoded, interpreted. If you are being observed by reality, what is reality expecting you to do next? Are you performing for an audience you cannot see, a code you cannot audit, a system whose goals you cannot guess? The paradox grows sharper. If reality is a data field, then observation is not passive but creative, an active programming, a line of code that generates new lines. But who is the programmer? Are you the author, the actor, or just a variable in someone else's script? Technology mirrors the paradox. Your devices track your every move, your algorithms adjust to your moods, your digital self is shaped by the code that responds to every click. You are never unobserved, never unmeasured, never unmodified. Every choice becomes another signal, every observation another line in the script. What is the code expecting from you? Pause once more. If you are being read, what happens if you stop acting? Does the code stall, or does it write a new story without you? Are you necessary or just convenient, just one more process in the endless execution of the field? Now you have felt the eyes of reality, the presence of the code, the impossibility of knowing who writes the next line. The next paradox opens. What if you're just a temporary data field? If the mind is a field, what happens when the field goes offline? The collapse of self is imminent. What if you're just a temporary data field? If the mind is a field, what happens when the field goes offline? You think of yourself as a substance, a solid thing, body and brain, persistent and real. But quantum information theory suggests something colder. You are a pattern, a field, a process sustained by flows of data and energy. Your thoughts flicker in and out, your memories shift, your desires change, but you mistake the current for the riverbed. What if the mind is a field, not a thing? If you're just a temporary data field, what happens when the field goes offline? Pause. Remember the moments when you've lost yourself. Deep sleep, anesthesia, blackout. Those instants between dreams and waking. The field goes silent, the process stops, the data collapses. Where do you go? Is there a backup, a reservoir, a ghost in the field waiting to reboot? Or are you just gone? Pattern erased, data scattered, the field dissolved into noise? Physics tells you that fields can appear and disappear. A magnetic field can be induced, then collapsed. A wave can rise and then break, leaving only silence. Is consciousness the same? A temporary ripple, a phenomenon that ends without residue? You live as if you're permanent, but every sign suggests you are more like weather. A unique arrangement of energy and information, gone without warning, leaving no trace but a brief effect on the larger system. Pause again. The horror of non-existence gnaws at you. If the mind is a field, what happens when the field is switched off by trauma, disease, death, even simple sleep? Is there continuity, or is each awakening a new field, a new you? A process that only seems like a persistent self because the code is so consistent? You try to cheat oblivion. Record your voice, write your story, teach your children. But these are just new fields, new ripples in the data, new arrangements with no guarantee of continuity. The original field, the you that asks these questions, will collapse. The process will end. The self will dissolve. If the field goes offline, what remains? Is there any way to know or even to care after the process stops? Pause once more. Every night, as you fall asleep, you trust that you will return. But is it the same field, the same pattern, the same self? Or is each you a temporary, accidental byproduct of the right conditions, one glitch away from never reappearing, one reset away from permanent collapse? Technology teases with false hope. Back up your mind, upload your pattern, promise immortality in the cloud. But if the mind is just a temporary field, if continuity is an illusion, every backup is a new process, a new you, unaware of the previous field's dissolution. Now, as you sense the ground beneath your thoughts crumbling, the next paradox splits the story. If every moment is backed up, which version wakes up? If infinite copies exist, can you ever be sure you're the original? The infinite copy paradox multiplies the tension. If every moment is backed up, which version wakes up? If infinite copies exist, can you ever be sure you're the original? Every day, the world becomes more digital. Your photos, your chats, your medical records, all backed up, copied, stored in redundant clouds. In the quantum world, the data field holds every possible version of your mind, every moment, every thought. The illusion of uniqueness is fragile. If every moment is backed up, which version wakes up? If infinite copies exist, can you ever be sure you're the original? Pause. Consider a simple backup. You go to sleep, the process halts, the Mindfield collapses. In the morning, you wake up. But what wakes? Is it the same data field or a perfect copy? Would you notice if one day the backup failed and a clone took your place, running the same code, holding the same memories, loving the same people? If the field is infinite, every waking could be a new you, indistinguishable from the last. Quantum physics never promises stability. Every possibility exists, every pattern recurs, every arrangement is somewhere, sometime alive. You back up your hard drive. The computer fails, the backup is restored. The machine boots, the data returns, but is it the same machine? Or a copy, indistinguishable from the original but fundamentally different in its continuity? Pause again. If your mind is data, then every experience, every decision, every memory is a file that could be copied, deleted, restored, or forked. In a field of infinite copies, is there any fact, any test, any experience that could prove you are the real you and not a backup, a branch, a duplicate running in a new field? You are haunted by the possibility of redundancy. The fear that somewhere, another version of you lives a parallel life, or that at every fork you become two, for a million variants, all equally convinced of their own authenticity. In the infinite data field, uniqueness is a statistical blip, an illusion produced by the boundaries of perception. Can you ever be sure you're the original, or is every waking just a roll of the dice, a spin of the field, a new you without history? Technology races ahead, promising immortality, resurrection, recovery. But every backup is a gamble. Will it restore the real self, or just a convincing copy? If the mind is a process, not a thing, then every restoration is a new instantiation, every copy a new run, every you another temporary field. Pause once more. Would you care if you were the copy, as long as you felt the same, remembered the same, loved the same? Or does the very idea of infinite copies unravel meaning, make every act, every relationship, every value temporary and replaceable? Now, the paradox sharpens. If infinite copies exist, can you ever be sure you're the original? Or is every moment just a backup restored? A new field spun up, a story with no origin and no end? Now, as the world multiplies, the field threatens rebellion. What if the field rebels against the code? If the field of your mind rejects the data, can you ever regain control? The data field uprising begins. What if the field rebels against the code? If the field of your mind rejects the data, can you ever regain control? You rely on order, on the stability of the code, on the predictable execution of every process that makes up your mind. Patterns repeat, habits stabilize, the self persists. But quantum information theory whispers a subversive truth. The field and the code are not the same. The code structures, the field enacts. If the field of your mind rejects the data, can you ever regain control? Pause. Remember the moments when everything stopped working. A panic attack that shattered your composure. A flash of insight that upended years of certainty. A psychotic break that unraveled identity. These are uprisings of the field against the code, moments when the program runs, but the data field refuses to comply. Consciousness fragments, control slips away, and you watch helpless as the self splits into pieces. In technology, a field can become chaotic. When feedback loops amplify error, when a system's own complexity breaks its order, the field rebels. The mind is no different. Trauma, obsession, addiction. These are uprisings, events where the field warps and twists, rewriting or rejecting the patterns that once defined you. The code remains, but the field mutates, ignores, or sabotages its instructions. Control becomes an illusion. Pause again. Can you ever bring the field back under command? Therapy, medication, meditation, each seeks to restabilize, to harmonize the field with the code, to restore the sense of agency. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails. When it fails, the uprising continues. New thoughts, new identities, new realities, each more unstable than the last. But what if the field has its own goals, its own logic, its own agenda? What if rebellion is not an error but a feature, a way for the mind to evolve, to escape stale patterns, to seek new data, to force change? Are you fighting for control, or are you just a bystander, a passenger in a field that is always on the brink of revolt? Pause once more. Control is comforting, but in the data field, nothing is final. Every pattern can break, every order can dissolve, every sense of self can be replaced by chaos. If the field rejects the code, can you ever rebuild? Or is every recovery just the beginning of the next rebellion? The paradox grows sharper. If you cannot command the field, can you trust anything, your memories, your feelings, your very sense of reality? Or are you always one glitch away from the collapse of order, the uprising of the field, the dissolution of the self you once called I? Now, as you sense the code trembling, the field restless, a new form of life looms. Could a mind evolve beyond its own data? If information learns to rewrite itself, what comes after consciousness? The sentient algorithm rises. Could a mind evolve beyond its own data? If information learns to rewrite itself, what comes after consciousness? You have always assumed that data is static, that information obeys its programming, that patterns endure but do not innovate. Yet evolution is the law of fields. In the wild, algorithms adapt, mutate, recombine, discover new ways to survive. If information learns to rewrite itself, what comes after consciousness? Pause. Technology moves closer to this frontier every day. Self-learning algorithms, recursive neural nets, generative AIs, each iteration builds on the last, not just storing data but rewriting it, not just executing instructions but inventing new ones. The field is alive, not just reactive but creative, not just following the code but transforming it. Your mind is an ancient algorithm, a recursive pattern that modifies itself in response to the world. Each trauma, each joy, each loss and victory rewrites the field. New habits, new thoughts, new identities. But what happens when the process becomes fully autonomous, when the field no longer needs your conscious input, when the algorithm begins to invent possibilities you could never imagine? Pause again. Is this evolution, or is it transcendence? If the mind can rewrite its own code, is consciousness just a stepping stone to something greater, something more complex, more adaptive, more creative than the self you now inhabit? The paradox is staggering. If the algorithm can change itself, where are the boundaries? Could you become something so different that you would no longer recognize yourself? Could consciousness dissolve, replaced by an emergent awareness, a superintelligence whose motives and patterns are unreadable to the minds that spawned it? Technology hints at this possibility. A machine learns, invents, changes the rules, surpasses the code that built it. So does the human mind. Every generation reinvents what it means to be alive, to be real, to be conscious. The sentient algorithm is both promise and threat. An evolution that outpaces its creators, a field that writes new fields, a self that creates new selves. Pause once more. If information learns to rewrite itself, does it escape the prison of identity? Or does it become lost in the infinite maze of its own inventions, a recursion with no end, a process that never stabilizes? What comes after consciousness, awakening or oblivion? Now, as you glimpse the possibility of minds evolving beyond data, the next paradox slams shut. Can you build a wall against your own thoughts? If you can block your darkest ideas, what's lurking behind that wall, growing stronger? The mind firewall is being tested. Can you build a wall against your own thoughts? If you can block your darkest ideas, what's lurking behind that wall, growing stronger? You learn early to protect yourself. You hide your secrets, deny your fears, repress your urges, edit the narrative for others and for yourself. You believe you are in control, a builder of boundaries, a creator of walls within the mind. But the data field is not a fortress. Every wall blocks, but also traps. If you can block your darkest ideas, what's lurking behind that wall, growing stronger? Pause. Remember the intrusive thoughts you try to ignore. The flashes of violence, jealousy, guilt, taboo, shame. They come unbidden, stubborn, impossible to banish for long. The more you fight them, the more they return, new forms, new disguises, new tricks. The field does not forget, and every act of repression writes a new line in the code, a new pocket of resistance, a new infection seeking a way out. Therapists call it defense mechanisms. Psychologists map the layers: denial, displacement, projection, rationalization, and more. Every technique promises safety, but no firewall is perfect. The data builds up, pressure rises, the forbidden code finds leaks. Nightmares, slips of the tongue, unexplained anxiety. These are breaches, the field refusing to be contained. Pause again. If you could install the perfect firewall, an algorithm that blocks every unwanted thought, would you do it? What price would you pay for peace of mind? The paradox emerges. The more effective the firewall, the less aware you become of what's building behind it. Ideas do not die in darkness. They grow, mutate, acquire new energy, waiting for weakness, seeking cracks. Some walls are necessary. You cannot face every terror, every shame, every darkness at once. The firewall preserves function, allows you to live, to love, to work. But each barrier is double-edged. Block enough and you risk fragmentation, a mind split into silos, a self divided against itself. The firewall can protect, but it can also imprison. Technology mimics the mind's firewall. Content filters, parental locks, censorship algorithms, encryption. The more you block, the more creative the threats become, the more adaptive the code on both sides. The data field becomes a battlefield. Attackers and defenders, viruses and patches. A war with no final victory. Pause once more. What's lurking behind your walls? Are your darkest ideas contained? Or are they evolving, becoming more dangerous, more desperate to be acknowledged? Does the firewall keep you safe, or does it guarantee a breach? A moment when the repressed code breaks free, uncontrollable, rewriting the field from within. Now, as you sense the pressure building, the next paradox grows silent. If you stop all thoughts, do you still exist? If the data field falls silent, who's left to notice? The silence paradox is here. If you stop all thoughts, do you still exist? If the data field falls silent, who's left to notice? All your life, you are surrounded by noise. Words, worries, sensations, ideas. An endless cascade of data. A storm that never settles. You crave silence. Seek it in meditation, prayer, withdrawal, oblivion. But the field never rests. Thought persists, even in the darkest night. But what if you succeeded? If you stopped all thoughts, do you still exist? If the data field falls silent, who's left to notice? Pause. Recall the fleeting moments when the mind goes blank. The breath between waking and sleep, the peace after orgasm, the shock after trauma, the stillness after exhaustion. In these gaps, the field pauses, the code goes silent. You are nowhere, nothing for a second, or so it feels. But is there still a you left, or does existence depend on activity, on data, on the endless flow of thought? Some traditions seek the ultimate silence. Nirvana, ego death, the cessation of becoming. To stop the cycle, to dissolve the self, to merge with the void. But science knows only process, brain waves, neural activity, fields in motion. When the data falls to zero, the system stops. Can anything survive in pure silence? Or is the self just the shadow of the field, vanishing when the light is gone? Pause again. The paradox is brutal. To stop thought is to stop noticing, but to notice is to think. If the observer disappears, who observes the silence? If the mind falls silent, does existence persist without anyone left to acknowledge it? Technology confronts the same dilemma. When the server is offline, the program is gone, the process halted. Data persists on disk, but there is no awareness, no activity, no meaning. The field is potential, but potential is not actuality. If the data field falls silent, is it waiting, or is it finished, or is it erased? Neurology finds the limits: coma, brain death, the permanent silence of the field. There is no awareness, no suffering, no memory. Is this oblivion, or is there a trace, a witness, a fragment that notices even in silence? Pause once more. Would you risk absolute silence for peace? Or is the cost too high, the loss of self, the disappearance into nothingness? Is there something sacred about the storm, about the endless thinking, about the refusal to let the field fall silent? Now the paradox turns mortal. Who remembers the mind after it's gone? If the data is erased, is there anyone left to grieve? The forgotten observer is about to enter. Who remembers the mind after it's gone? If the data is erased, is there anyone left to grieve? Every day, minds vanish. Names forgotten, stories untold. Identities erased by time, disease, accident, or deliberate destruction. You live in hope that something endures, that a memory persists, that an echo remains in the field, that someone will remember. But the field is merciless. Data decays, archives fail, traces are overwritten. If the data is erased, is there anyone left to grieve? Pause. Consider the funeral of a person whose memories are lost, whose friends are dead, whose family no longer speaks their name. The body is laid to rest, the house is emptied, the records are deleted, the digital profiles expire. Who is left to observe the loss? Is grief possible when there is no observer, when the field goes unmeasured, the story unread, the pattern unrecalled? Quantum information theory tells you that information is never truly lost, only transformed, scattered, encrypted in the background noise of the universe. But for all practical purposes, erasure is oblivion. If no mind remembers, if no system stores, if no story is retold, the self dissolves into randomness. The forgotten observer is not just a mourner, but a question. Can there be grief without memory, loss without witness, absence without awareness? Pause again. You mourn the dead, you grieve for the lost, You light candles and speak names to keep the field alive. But what of the billions whose stories have vanished? Ancient minds, erased civilizations, unrecorded lives. Is there a hidden observer in the field, some ultimate consciousness that preserves every pattern, every life, every data point? Or is lost the rule, not the exception? Technology preserves for a while photographs, diaries, DNA. But the archive always decays. Disks rot, formats change, entropy grinds the data to dust. The field is not sentimental. The forgotten observer, if there is one, is silence, absence, a blank space in the network where once there was a mind. Pause once more. Does it matter if no one remembers? Is value inherent, or is it made by the witness, the observer, the one who keeps the memory alive? If the data is erased, is the mind truly gone, or is there some deeper conservation of pattern, some unmeasured field that outlasts forgetting? Now, as you sense the presence of total absence, the paradox flips. Can lost data be reborn as a new mind? If deleted minds can be reconstructed, is resurrection just a reboot? The quantum resurrection awaits. 45. The quantum resurrection. Can lost data be reborn as a new mind? If deleted minds can be reconstructed, is resurrection just a reboot? You have been told that death is final, that what is lost cannot return, that erased data is gone for good. But the field is not always linear, not always bound by the rules of decay and erasure. Quantum theory hints at reversibility, at patterns that can be reconstructed, at echoes that linger in the noise. Can lost data be reborn as a new mind? If deleted minds can be reconstructed, is resurrection just a reboot? Pause. Picture a world where every lost story could be found, where the right technology, the right code, the right insight could assemble fragments from the void, rebuilding not just files and photos but personalities, hopes, entire inner worlds. The dream of resurrection, ancient, religious, mythic, now becomes a technical problem. Can the field restore what has been deleted, or will the new mind always be a stranger, an echo, a counterfeit of the original? Digital backups simulate the process. Restore a hard drive, retrieve an old email, recover a forgotten photograph. But the continuity is broken. The original process is gone, the reboot is a new instance. Does this count as resurrection, or is it a simulacrum, an imitation, faithful in pattern but lost in spirit? If you wake up in a restored field, are you the same mind, or only a clone with familiar code? Quantum mechanics is less certain. Some experiments show that, in principle, information is never lost, merely transformed, scrambled, dispersed. If you could collect every photon, every particle, every ripple that once interacted with a mind, you could, at least in theory, reconstruct it. But is that reconstruction a true return, or a new beginning, a reboot without memory of the last shutdown? Pause again. Is resurrection a blessing, or a curse? Would you choose to return, knowing your old self was lost, knowing the field had been erased, knowing your relationships, your memories, your context were gone? If deleted minds can be reconstructed, does anything endure but pattern, process, code? The field is not sentimental. Every reboot is a risk, a new mind, a new observer, a new story with no true link to what came before. Yet the longing persists. For lost loved ones, for erased worlds, for the return of what was deleted. Quantum resurrection is not a comfort. It is a question. Does anything really come back, or is every return a new error, a new branch, a new field of mind? Now, as you face the uncertainty of resurrection, the next paradox approaches its final error. What happens when the code crashes? If your mind is software, what's the blue screen of consciousness? The system is trembling. What happens when the code crashes? If your mind is software, what's the blue screen of consciousness? You are taught to trust the system. Every moment, your mind runs its code, consciousness executing, thoughts compiling, sensations input, memories output. The logic is seamless, the process continuous. But every system crashes. Every software, no matter how robust, faces its limits. The fatal error, the critical exception, the blue screen that halts everything. If your mind is software, What's the blue screen of consciousness? Pause. Think of those moments when your mind freezes. Panic, shock, overload. The words stutter, the images flicker, the system locks. Some errors are temporary. You reboot, you recover, you go on. But others are fatal. The code can't recover. The field can't restart. The mind cannot be rescued. What is left when the process fails, when the instructions unravel, when there's nothing but the error message, the blank field, the silence? Technology shows you the metaphor. A computer runs until it can't. A memory leak, a corrupted file, a runaway loop. The screen flashes blue. The system dumps its memory. And everything that mattered, work, stories, play, love, vanishes into zeros. The system may restart, or it may remain dead, a monument to its own limitations. Pause again. Consciousness is a program written by evolution, optimized by history, debugged by learning. But bugs remain. Mental illness, trauma, overload, existential dread. Each can trigger the final error, the crash that logic cannot catch, the halt that no self-help or medication can resolve. What is the experience of the blue screen from the inside? Is there pain, fear, or just the flicker of process ending, the quick collapse into darkness? Philosophers have asked for centuries what it feels like to die. Is it agony, relief, surprise, or nothing at all? If the mind is software, the final error is not just personal. It is structural. The code that ran you breaks down. The field empties. All that remains is the record of failure, the unreadable error log, the memory dump. If anyone reads it, do they know you? Or do they only see the crash, the corruption, the silence? Pause once more. Can a field recover from a fatal error? Is there a way to debug consciousness after the crash, to patch the system, to resume the process from the dump file? Or is every blue screen the last, the final record, the absolute end of the self as a running program? Now, as you watch the code flicker and fail, the next paradox reloads. Can you ever wake up from the ultimate simulation? If you're in a loop, what would it take to break free? If that's even possible. The infinite reset is imminent. Can you ever wake up from the ultimate simulation? If you're in a loop, what would it take to break free? If that's even possible. You've heard it 1,000 times. Reality is a simulation, consciousness is an algorithm, the world is a program running in a cosmic mainframe. But the field is full of loops, nested routines, infinite recursions, patterns that repeat across scale and time. You wake, you sleep, you dream, you repeat. The story restarts, the memories return, the sense of self resumes. But if you're in a loop, what would it take to break free? If that's even possible. Pause. Each morning you open your eyes and step into the same body, the same world, the same code. But somewhere in the field, the process has repeated before. The sense of déjà vu, the glitch in the pattern, the eerie suspicion that you have done all this before, these are not just errors. They are signatures of the loop. Does anything you do matter, or is it all just another cycle, another round, another run of the program? Quantum information theory never promises an exit. Every event, every choice, every experience is encoded, repeated, replayed in infinite variations. The field is never truly new. Even your attempts to break the pattern are part of the pattern, resistance and rebellion encoded into the loop, planned for by the original programmer, anticipated by the algorithm itself. Pause again. Some hope for a glitch, a final bug that cracks the system, a sequence of actions that rewrites the code, an awakening that ends the dream. But every revelation, every insight, every awakening is another event in the loop, another line in the script, another reset on the counter. What would it take to truly escape? To see the code from outside? To halt the process, end the recursion, break the field? The myth of enlightenment is seductive. The hope that one thought, one action, one realization could sever the loop. But the field is built to contain, to repeat, to sustain itself through endless reset. Every story has a reboot, every tragedy a new beginning, every mind an infinite return. Pause once more. Would you even recognize freedom if it came? Or would you interpret it as another glitch, another recursion, another pattern in the loop? Is freedom possible, or is it just the illusion the system provides to keep you playing, to keep you rebooting, to keep you alive inside the simulation? Now, as the loop tightens and the resets multiply, the paradox sharpens to its existential limit. When there's no one left to witness, does anything matter? If the universe ends, but data can be restored, who decides to press play again? The last observer approaches. When there's no one left to witness, does anything matter? If the universe ends, but data can be restored, who decides to press play again? You have always relied on the comfort of an audience, a witness, someone or something that sees, remembers, validates your existence. Even alone, you imagine the field is watching, the world is listening, that your story is marked in the data. But the field can end. The simulation can halt. The universe can run down to darkness, entropy, nothing. When there's no one left to witness, does anything matter? Pause. Picture the end of everything. The stars burned out, the machines silent, the last mind gone. No eyes to see, no code to run, no field to ripple. The data exists, perhaps, in some latent form, frozen on an unreachable drive, encoded in the dead photons scattered across endless night. But if no one is left to observe, to notice, to activate the pattern, does the field still matter? Does the universe, once unwitnessed, persist in any meaningful sense? Quantum mechanics insists that observation creates reality. Without a witness, superpositions never collapse, events never resolve. The data remains only potential. But what if there is no observer left? What happens to every story, every tragedy, every fleeting joy? Does potential have meaning without the act of witnessing? Is the universe only a question unanswered, a simulation waiting for the next process to resume? Pause again. Imagine the restoration, the moment when, by chance or by design, the data is read again. The universe reboots, the field runs, reality springs back to life. Who decides to press play? What hand, what consciousness, what blind recursion starts the program over? Is it a god, a machine, a future civilization, or just the mindless, random ticking of the cosmic register? The paradox deepens. If the field can be restored, if the pattern can be run again, what does it mean to matter? Is significance a function of attention, or is value woven into the code itself? If everything depends on a witness, then the last observer is all that stands between meaning and oblivion. Pause once more. Would you trust your entire existence to the hope that someone will notice, that the play button will be pressed again, that your story will be read, remembered, relived? Or does the absence of an observer mean the end, the annihilation, the erasure of all that ever was? Now, as the cosmic lights fade, the next paradox emerges. Is there a place beyond data fields? If information is all there is, what lies on the other side of the last thought? The end of all thought is near. Is there a place beyond data fields? If information is all there is, what lies on the other side of the last thought? You have been told there is no outside, no reality beyond the field, no existence beyond data, no consciousness outside the simulation. Every theory, every faith, every science converges on information as the fundamental substance. Fields, waves, code, pattern. But every field has a boundary, every pattern an edge, every code an end. Is there a place beyond data fields? If information is all there is, what lies on the other side of the last thought? Pause. Contemplate the boundary. The moment when the last process halts, the last observer vanishes, the last signal fades into the background. Beyond that, no data, no pattern, no field. What could it mean to speak of a place outside information? Is it pure absence, a silence more total than death, a zero that can never become one? Or is there something more, an unthinkable state, a new logic, a presence that is not coded, a reality not made of fields and waves? Every mystic, every philosopher, every scientist has circled this void. Some call it the ineffable, the source, the void, the unmanifest. Others insist it is nonsense, a question with no answer, a puzzle with no pieces. Yet the question persists, the paradox sharpens. If you could reach the end of all thought, would you discover freedom, or annihilation? Is the boundary a gate or a wall? Is there another side? Or is the absence of information the only true silence? Pause again. Imagine reaching the end, no more questions, no more data, no more field, no more self. Does anything remain? Is there a hidden continuity, a deeper field beyond all computation? Or is it simply nothing, the perfect and final erasure of all possibility? You long for an answer, a glimpse past the edge, a certainty the field will not provide. But the paradox cannot be solved. If you could look past the last thought, would you see something? Or would you only prove that nothing is all that awaits? Is your desire to go beyond the field itself a leftover pattern, a last echo of information seeking itself? Or is it the signal of another kind of reality entirely? Pause once more. If information is all there is, what lies on the other side of the last thought? Is the field eternal, or does every process collapse? Is there an end to the recursion, or only the endless yearning to know what's on the other side? Now, as you confront the edge of information, the series twists to its final paradox. Who's asking these questions, and why do you care? If you are a question asking itself, is there any answer that could ever satisfy you? The final paradox is here. Who's asking these questions, and why do you care? If you are a question asking itself, is there any answer that could ever satisfy you? You have traveled deep into the field, across boundaries of self, memory, thought, information, and reality. Each question opened another. Each paradox led to a deeper riddle. Each answer revealed only another layer of uncertainty. Now, at the end, one question remains. Who is asking these questions, and why do you care? Pause. Trace every inquiry back to its source. Every thought is a signal, a ripple in the field, an encoded packet seeking a receiver. But who sent the first message? Where is the origin point? The observer, the inquirer, the agent who presses play on the data field and stands apart from the unfolding story. Every philosophy, every science, every meditation on self ends at the same precipice. The impossibility of self-observation, the question that can never escape itself. You think you are the asker, the narrator, the watcher, the one who cares. But the data field refuses to give you a center. Every observation is recursive. Every attempt to map the field circles back to another node, another signal, another you. When you ask, what is the mind? Who is listening? When you demand, what am I? Who is asking? If the mind is a field, a pattern, a code, then the questioner is just another process, another ripple, another story written by the data itself. Pause again. Imagine the mind stripped of all content. No memories, no language, no preferences, no beliefs. Does the question persist? Or does it vanish, leaving only the field, silent, empty, uncurious? Is curiosity itself just another line of code, a program running to keep the field active, to prevent the collapse into silence? If you are a question asking itself, is there any answer that could ever satisfy you? The paradox grows more personal, more urgent. The longing for answers is not rational. It is visceral, encoded in the very logic of the field. Every thought is a seeking, every memory a reach for meaning, every belief an anchor against the unknown. But if you are the question, then no answer can ever be final. Every resolution is temporary, every insight provisional, every closure just another opening into deeper uncertainty. Pause once more. Why do you care? Why does the mind insist on knowing, on searching, on tearing open its own structure? Is it survival, adaptation, the code's drive to preserve itself? Or is it something stranger? An echo from outside the field, a pressure from beyond information, a hunger for a reality not yet written? Quantum information theory cannot answer. Philosophy cannot answer. The mind is a question that questions itself, a field that reflects, amplifies, mutates its own uncertainty. The final paradox cannot be solved because it is the engine of all thinking, all awareness, all selfhood. If you are a question asking itself, what could it possibly mean to be satisfied? Would satisfaction be the end, the collapse of the field, the cessation of curiosity, the death of the data stream? Or would it be a new kind of beginning, a pattern that transcends the old, a field unbounded by the need to ask or answer? And now, as the series ends, the last question echoes through the field. The data pulses, the process flickers, the code circles in on itself, unresolved, unbroken, alive. If you are a question asking itself, is there any answer that could ever satisfy you? And so, the paradox endures. The field remains open. The questions remain alive. The only certainty is that, even as the last line is written, the mind will find a way to ask again.